Hey, we're live. Say hello, everyone. So yeah, cool. We're a little bit late running this, but that's my fault. So sorry about that. Thanks for you guys for sticking with it. Although Vic was late anyway, so it doesn't matter. But
me late never. No, not me, mate.
He turned up.
So tonight, so I'm joined by three new faces for those of you that have been watching the live stream so far. But so Owen, Vic, and Lewis or Quinn are all actually co-hosts of the show, and will be regular faces. Just haven't appeared yet because we've hogged it with the other stuff we've done. So I'm glad to get you guys on actually, and just I don't know, like I suppose break you into the wonderful world of live streaming. And so our topic that we're gonna what we're gonna do with this show. So we want to do different formats for the shows. So we started off doing that like brainstorm thing that we talked about Bradford clubs. We did the special on AGL yesterday with Coach Rains, Steve Rains joining me and Will, which we'll do more of that. I like the idea of like, say one of us getting someone we know and interviewing them for an hour or whatever, Will's got a cool idea. I don't know if he shared it with you guys yet, but he talked about, he just agreed with, you guys know Roger Goodgroves? He's a BAFRA ref, but he's in charge. He's like the operations director for BAFRA, but he's involved in loads of other. He's got his fingers in all sorts of pies across Britball. Really, really lovely guy. And he's agreed to doing this thing where we get. He basically gives us like a scenario. So either we'll watch a little bit of film, or he'll describe a scenario to us in a game, and then we have to talk amongst ourselves and figure out if we were the ref, what would we do?
Definitely. Let's get that in.
Yeah, so that's not next week. It's the week after that he's doing the first one, but that could be like a regular feature. That would be quite funny to see, how everyone reacts to it. And then we've got the other one that I think you guys know about. We're calling it Condemned, but it's basically it's styled after Room 101, where basically everyone that's on says something they don't like about Britball that they want to condemn, and then they sort of, you sort of fight, you argue your case, and then one of the things gets picked as it gets condemned in that show. So yeah, just a bit of a laugh really, but something sort of light-hearted to go with the more serious stuff that we're doing. But anyway, so tonight is more of a discussion one, and I wanted to talk about Superstition, and I picked it on purpose because I think it's something that I find quite interesting throughout the world of sport anyway, but I think particularly in American football is quite prevalent. And it certainly has been in my experience. And I just wanted to sort of see other people's views on it. And, it was funny as I started, I don't know if you guys did much prep for this. I know Vic, you did a bit, Vic, you guys, your mics are.
Yeah, I'm in and out.
Yeah, you can mute if you want. It's up to you. But yeah, I started looking into it a little bit. Did a couple of Google searches and all that sort of stuff. And the more I thought about it, the more stuff I had, and I was like, bloody hell, there's quite a lot to this actually. We've obviously got those watching that are going to jump in with comments. It's just Ryan Cummins at the moment. There you go. There's one for you, Quinn. Look at the drums. He put that in the background on purpose, didn't he? So before we get stuck into it, I think it does make sense, given the topic, that we talk about just very briefly, like our backgrounds in the game and what we do within the game. Because I think that will also, it may be prevalent or relevant to our, how we view Superstition. So I don't know. Does anyone want to go first? Quinn, that's you.
When I played, I didn't really have anything that, and sort of I thought it was more of a superstition, but I kind of thought I like to have the same sort of like I wore a t-shirt underneath. It was more for comfort. And the sort of a thing where you put something different in your kit bag, and then you don't play as well or something annoys you, and you think to yourself, so that comes out. And as you say, I was doing a bit of prep, and sort of I started thinking back a wee bit, even when my dad was playing. And I think a lot of the guys more in the 80s definitely had more superstition.
So did your dad played in the UK in the 80s, did he?
Yeah, he played for the Lions. Do you know? So, and I used to hang around the locker rooms and stuff back then. And actually, when I started thinking back, and I was chatting to him today about it as well, and he was saying he definitely had superstitions. He had the same sort of a hand wraps that he used, and different things like that. So he had his own wee sort of his own special bits of kit. But then he sort of sectioned himself off, and I didn't even remember it. But he would go away into the locker room for 5-10 minutes and just sort of get his mind clear before he would go out and sort of play. And he said a lot of the guys were like that as well. They had all their own wee, the sort of their own wee sort of traditions, I would say, more than a superstition. Yeah. But it was an interesting thing. Looking at this sort of bigger scale of things, you're saying doing sort of searches and stuff, and obviously you start thinking things like the Madden curse, which would be one of the bigger ones.
That's definitely a superstition in the game, isn't it? Yeah.
When you're on the cover of Madden, I suppose Mahomes broke that one last year, but I mean, you think of everyone who, all those type of superstitions, and also things like I was reading up about like Brady and different things as well. How he gets all these wide receivers to stare at the sun and different things like that as well, which is kind of strange. But the Ivor Urlacher's shirt up there, apparently he used to eat chocolate chip cookies before every game.
I read that one.
I read that one.
Yeah, two chocolate chip cookies before a game.
Yeah, which is quite a strange one as well, So,
yeah.
But yeah, no, there definitely is. I think most guys, it could stem from like a sort of insecurity type thing, or they just latch on to something. I suppose if you're playing professionally, there's sort of a high stress of it. If you think you're on a run, then just keep it going.
So, I think that as that's part of my sort of view on it as well. But I don't want to sort of feed into you guys yet. I want you to sort of share your stuff. But I absolutely buy into the whole success breeds it to an extent, or contributes to it. I definitely think that you're onto something there. So what Quinn, what? So your dad was involved in football. What's your involvement been? You said you played. What? I did that. A sort of a 2 or 3 year stunt with the Glasgow Tigers a few years back. Oh right. Yeah.
A good few years back now that I think about it. But before that, it would have been mostly my father played for a good few years. With the Glasgow Lions and stuff. So, a few years there, and then realistically just sort of try to keep my tabs on it. When I moved over to Northern Ireland, I started thinking about maybe going back and playing again, getting into some sort of a shape. But my back gave out, so now I'm sort of looking for tag teams and sort of a flag football with that kind of idea. But the only problem is over here is everything's so many miles away. Like our closest flag team is about 40 miles away, which is crazy to think that's a 3-hour drive plus practice, then games, that kind of idea. So I'm sort of thinking about maybe getting back into it again, more on a coaching side of things with the kids and stuff. But our local team would be Strabane, so. You never know, but you sort of just get caught up with it,
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. The Northern Ireland or the Irish League, I want to sort of start adding them to our repertoire, Gridiron Hub, actually. So you'll have to be into it because I have I know there's there's a couple of teams in Dublin, the Dublin Rebels. Is it what? That's one of them. They seem to be pretty good. But yeah, I need someone to sort of help demystify it so we can start to cover it a bit. But
there is a few teams. There's quite a lot. I think over here as well, because they have the college game once a year in Dublin.
That's right.
It's sort of a took off. So there is quite a lot. I mean, I found more so, I think, over here. We have a Super Bowl party once a year and all that kind of idea. But there's more people over here into it than I was when I was over in Glasgow. Do you know what I mean? So it's good that way. It's a good community.
Yeah. Cool. Cheers for that. So just quickly, we'll go into Owen. We'll go to you next. Tell us about your background in the sport. Where have you played? What positions? All that sort of stuff. Any coaching?
Yeah. So coaching wise, no. just straight up no. I don't have like the temperament or nothing for coaching. But playing wise, I've been sort of playing since I was 14, 15 years old. Always down in Torbay with the Trojans, and then I had a brief time with Flag alongside that, playing up in Exeter for the Falcons there as well. So I've been in the game quite heavily for the past couple of years.
And what position are you?
Mainly quarterback.
Yeah, I knew that. I just wanted to get you.
I figured you knew that.
Because I think
you've heard it enough.
I would say quarterback is one of the most quarterback and running back are the most superstitious roles I come across, because they're the big targets, right? Like they're the ones that and so that's why I'm quite interested in hearing your take on some of this stuff, because I think that they're more likely roles to be positions to be superstitious. Vic.
Yes, sir. How you doing?
Good, man.
I'm not too bad, man.
Obviously, I know about your long history with the game, but do you want to just share for the viewers who may not know who you are and your background?
I'm a pretty simple guy, man. 12 years playing senior ball, London O's. I started really late, so I started at 22, which again for me is that's a big regret. I'd love to have started younger and got that experience from a younger age. But yeah, I started at 22. London Olympians when they restarted in 2008. So I was lucky enough to be able to play development, Div 2, Div 1, and Prem. So the development, it was massive. It was massive, like learning fundamentals and just kind of building camaraderie with all of us boys that were relatively new to the sport and the rest of that. And again, the superstitions and the routine developed from there. I didn't really have anyone else telling me what to wear, how to do it, this, that, and the other. And it was kind of like something that grew. So yeah, I've done that 12 years of senior ball. Coached a little bit for NFL UK in schools, a bit of the flag stuff, did a bit of community work there, and will eventually get into coaching within the next properly full time. I'm kind of player coach at the moment now. But yeah, that will be in the next probably 2 or 3 years, depending on how the body holds up. No, do you know what? The way this was probably going to be my last year, but this COVID thing now has got me determined to at least have a blowout, like one more season, even if it's just being a kicker. I need to get back on the field again and have that closure of a final season of whatever it is. So, so saying that, I'm a D-line, I'm an O-lineman kicker at the moment. Started off as a middle backer. Then I went to a defensive end, then a nose tackle, then O-line. And that was from 15 stone up to about 24 that I am now. So, yeah, the transition's been amazing. I'm that Madden character that just kept evolving. But, but the superstition thing for me is definitely based on routine. Because early on, I found out that a lot of this game was mental, so mental. Like, you do whatever you do in practice, but if on the day you're not ready, you're not in the right headspace, like, it only takes one play to completely knock you right off your game. So I used to dress appallingly. I'm not going to lie to you. Early on, I used to get very good knocks on my hands. It was, I think, 2 or 3 weeks in a row. I got the black spots on my hands. And it was like, from then on, I thought, nah, I have to wear gloves. If I ever forgot my gloves at practice, when I was fuming, I was raging, because I always had to wear gloves. Because I'm thinking to myself, people flying around with lids and whatever, you cut your hand on the lid, you're messed up. And I always cover my arms as well. And again, that's just a mental thing. The smallest graze, if it's there in a game, I'm always kind of thinking, looking at it, because you feel it. And now, if I cover my arms, it's when you get in the shower after the game, you think, oh, wow, I never knew that was there. And it's like, that's one less thing you got to worry about. And the more advanced kind of wear superstitions, when I started kicking recently of late, my body type's changed ever since I started kicking. So I've evolved into the insurance of toe punting. So I actually toe punt the ball at kickoffs, and I haven't quite evolved to doing it for field goals yet, because I don't want to kill the holder. But for kickoffs, I can toe punt the ball. So before a game, I always make sure I try and toe punt one through the post from the halfway line, just to kind of say to myself, all right, cool, I'm good today, I'm here. And I saw Ryan's comment about the donuts before a game, McDonald's breakfast, 100% before a game. So we used to go to a lot of...
That's you yourself, is it?
I'm not going to lie, that's me, I will McDonald's breakfast, massive. I will go extra large McDonald's breakfast, because that'll be at about, 9:30, and games don't kick off till 2, and I won't eat again till 6. So I used to just load every game. Away games were at Victoria Station, we normally could take off from. So there's a McDonald's there, and our home games where there's a McDonald's around the corner as well. So McDonald's, if you're watching, sponsorship, Talk to me. But yeah, there was a big guy. Like going a whole day without eating is unheard of. And that game days, you kind of condition your body and mind to know you're not eating, you're just drinking. But having that big load in the morning, and it gets you through the day. But other ones I got down is just like headgear and stuff. So I started the game. I was gifted a prehistoric helmet by the team, and you know what it was? It was one of those ones. If it's not broke, don't fix it. I went online, checked how much helmets were, and I was like, I'm just gonna ride this one out. 6-7 years later, I'm still using the old ancient helmet. If you look at photos, it was alien head huge, but I kept it safe enough. Put on a proper one, and I realized, oh wow, these things actually have padding in. I bought one from Football America. I showed out 200. I showed out 250 power of Football America, and I was like, wow, what have I done to my brain cells? But defensive. Like I was young, I was hungry, and just got it done. So from there, there's little things I used to do. Like, so I always wear stuff on my hair. I've got quite long hair, so I always put something on my hair, partly for superstition, partly for comfort. I always will. I've gone from just my hair to literally wearing an all-out headscarf now. So at games, people be like, "How do you wear that under there?" But it's a desert mentality. On a really hot day, if you got yourself completely covered, it's temperature regulation. So for me, it just kind of works. It works. And again, I say the gloves. Back in the day, I used to cover my arms. I used to wear double armbands, like as forearm covers. Again, the McDonald's, where else kick through the post, and what else I've got here. There were the odd games where things just kind of totally go to crap, but you just kind of have to kind of roll with it. So like before games, I was that guy. Don't go out partying before a game. Don't go out partying before a game. And I remember we had a game, and there was a party way out in West London I went to. It was a good friend of mine's dad's birthday. I thought, let me just go. Ended up staying out there, staying up late. Missed the coach. Had to get a cab all the way across London, all the way out to Essex. And I had the game of my life. And after the game, I thought, damn, I'm glad I didn't tell coach I went out, because he would have just been on me. But I had a great game, and it was like, it all went out the window, you just got it done. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So I when I was looking into this stuff, right, I was looking at different examples, and I was skeptical of some of the things that people were labeling as superstition, right? So I came up with this like little list that I wanted to sort of like, almost like different categories or different, because I've heard you guys mention other things, like it's not quite a superstition, it was like a tradition, for example. And so these are the things that I sort of like come across. So superstition is the main one. Then there's some things that I think are just habit for people, like they do it out of just that they're used to doing it. And like, because I think for me, a superstition is something that you believe is having a material impact on performance, like it's good luck, or if you don't do it, then something bad will happen. Like that. Look, that to me is a superstition. If you're just used to doing something, like you leave your house at a certain time because you live a certain distance away, that's that. But then if it throws you off, because like if you leave 10 minutes late and you're fuming because you're like, that's going to impact the game, then that's probably, you're looking more on the side of superstition than a habit, right? Then there was like a ritual, like so people like ritualistically will do things because it's just the way that they like prepare for a game. And then I also wrote down tradition, as in like you do it like because it's like the hacker, for example. Like they're doing that. It's mentality, but there's a huge tradition behind it. It's their families. It's all this other, like that's why they're doing it. And then I came across one, right, and I actually wrote down OCD, right, because I thought, or at least obsessive compulsive, maybe not the disorder side, but like there was this one fucking, and I thought this is hilarious. I don't know if you guys came across it when you were looking, but there was this baseball player who played like 40 games pro. He wasn't, he never set the world alight or anything. He had tons and tons of quirks, and one of the things is that if someone touched him, he had to touch them back. Like it was like equaling it out, like, so if someone touched me, I just got to touch you back. And so like the word got round to the other teams, and there was a game that he played against the New York Yankees, and they were purposely touching him and like running away, and he was literally running around the field trying to touch them, and it disturbed the game, and the umpire had to like tell off the whole of the Yankees players on the bench because of it. Now that to me that's obsessive compulsive, right? Like that's fucking like, that's not a superstition. That's just him being a bit fucking quirky, right?
Just a bit, yeah.
But yeah, like, so I think when we're talking through the different examples, because I've got quite a few examples, my own and some of my old teammates and stuff that I want to sort of talk through, and I sort of think, like, I'd like to sort of see how we categorize them, and if there is a categorization for them, like, would you say it was more ritualistic or tradition, or, you know, is that just and like, because I think the interesting thing about it as well is some things you'll hear and you'll think that's, I don't know, you categorize it as one thing and someone else will categorize it as another, you know, and I'm just quite interested in talking about that stuff. But so, Vic, you've shared your own. Owen, you haven't shared any of yours yet, and I'm quite well. Do you have any? Like, would you say that you do? Like, what's your views on superstition? I suppose that's the best place to start.
I mean, when you look at it yourself, does anybody actually think they have it until it's pointed out, sort of thing? It's like, because I do the same things week in, week out, but I'm not thinking about it, so I'm not thinking it's a superstition.
Talk us through those. Talk us through those. I'm quite interested in that.
Well, it's like I've got the same 2 pairs of shorts that's all I'll wear for training, with the same sort of leg compression gear, and that's all I'll wear. Yeah. So I won't wear anything else for training other than that pair of shorts. You know, stuff like that. Just everything has to be the same, everything consistent, and it is. I don't think it's not a habit thing either. So I guess that would come under one, wouldn't
it? Would you feel that if you did it differently, or something was missing from it, that it would impact the result, or like you're more likely to get hurt, or like, is there some sort of like back of your mind? It will, like, just, you know, eat away at you if you don't do something.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, I've got to have them leg compressions on, even if it's fucking baking outside. It's black full length leg compression.
So, would you go as far as to not play or not get involved if you didn't have them?
Possibly.
Really? Yeah. See, yeah. Like that. See, I find that fascinating, right? And I've got the same with my number. So, like, I've got a massive affiliation with my number. I've worn it since I was 11 when I started playing football. I've worn it every team I've gone to, the number has become available the year I've gone there. Like, so it's like there's been loads of like, there's Vic. There's been loads of, like, for me, coincidences around the number that I literally would not play. Or, well, I think I'm maybe a little bit. I don't know. So I played twice without the number. The first time, Vic, was actually against your guys when I went and joined the Thrashers for a season, when you guys the O's were coming back into the league, and we played you in a pre-season game down in Southampton or Andover. Oh, wow. And I took the opening kickoff, and I was playing running back, and I was wearing number 8. And I remember I took the opening kickoff, I got hit by about 6 people because no one knew how to block. And then we were on offense, and I carried the ball, and my first carry, I broke my collarbone.
No.
Yeah, and I carried on playing. And I was like, I went over to a photographer, and I was like, "Oh, mate, can you rub my fucking shoulder? It's killing me." And then, but anyway, I had to take my shoulder pads off.
That's crazy. I'm still here. You can hear me, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I had to take my shoulder pads off and get assessed, and like the woman said, "Oh yeah, you broke your collarbone." And I was like, "Oh fuck!" But and then I then went back to my number, and then my team, the Knights, got dropped down to Div 2, and they said to me, "Look, we'd rather have you on the like both sides of the ball because you experienced." And I was like, but I wear number 55, and I can't do anything on offense." So I was like, I went for number 22 because I was like, right, that's number 55.
Flip it around almost, yeah.
Yeah, that's obviously the thought I put into it. Yeah. And I also made sure that no one else could wear 55. So I actually like bought the number 55 jersey, and because I was like, I can't play on a fucking team where the other guy's wearing 55. Like, that's my number, and I still wore the jersey like before the game, and I did try and wear it underneath my top. It was too fucking hot with it. But that season, I think it was about a third or fourth. So I was playing running back, and I had the worst injury ever. My knee bent backwards when I got tackled. I had to have knee surgery. It was like 4 injuries in one. So like my ACL, my meniscus smashed, my femur was hemorrhaging bone marrow. and the tendon that holds your quad onto your knee, that's split as well. So I had 4 injuries in one.
Christ.
And so that stuff, both of those two things, the 2 times I changed my number, I've had shitty injuries. There's done nothing to help me with my number superstition. So I insist on wearing my number. And yeah, if I like, let's say I went to
So
join.
would you not play if you can't get your number now? You wouldn't play. You'd just straight
Yeah, I
up
wouldn't.
play.
Yeah. But like we played in a charity game. I played in a charity
Nah.
game for like a few years ago for like Bob Shaw. We was involved in the Cornish Sharks and the Cambridgeshire Cats, and they did like a game, and loads of knights went up there to play, and I was like, I want to wear number 55, and they're like, oh, we haven't got it, and I was like, okay, well, I'll wear my own jersey, and I took my own jersey and I wore that. I was like, I'm not.
That's real.
That's
real.
Yeah,
That's
man. Like,
superstition.
and I know that makes it sound like I'm a bit of a prima donna, but it's like, it's more than that. It's not an ego thing that's driving it. It's like what Vic said. It's a safety thing. I worry that I will get hurt when I don't wear it, and unfortunately for me, 100% of the time that has happened has been the case. So so like that's what, like, you know, I would say that is a superstition that I've got, and I know it sounds quite ridiculous, but I think it was drilled into me from a young age. I remember so I was given number 55, like. I needed a jersey to train with. I was in Virginia, and the team that I was playing for, they went from one kit to a new kit. Like, they changed kit, and a drastic change, like color scheme and everything. Like, it wasn't just like, you know, I don't know, a new version of the same colors. It was completely different. But so the old kit, or the previous kit to when I got there, was being used for practice. And I didn't have one. I didn't have a jersey. So they were saying, "Oh, go to the coach. He's got them all in this big van of his. He'll give you a jersey." And he went in there, grabbed it, and threw me number 55. And I was like, cool, like that was it. I wore that. And then when it came to us getting our actual jerseys, like our proper uniform, so that you imagine, like, it's like a football club in the UK. Like, so there's like under 16s, under 15s, under 14s, you know, tons of fucking kids playing for this club. And what they did was they hired out a school, and each classroom, they put all the kit out in number like 1 to 99 on around tables, right? So like basically all the kids went in there and they grabbed the number they wanted, and it was like pants, socks, jersey, all folded up, all brand new. And you were given like a time slot to go in and a room to go to, and it was all like arranged. They didn't have all the kids turning up at one time. I was fucking late, right? And the irony is that I live right next to the school, but I was late. So I was turning up just as they were locking it up, and I was like, "Oh, I need my stuff." And he said, "Like, what team are you? Right, you're down in this classroom on the left or whatever." And I remember went in there, and he said, "Just hurry up because I'm looking up," because they'd still laid them out. I don't know why, but he was looking up and they were laid out. And he said, "Just grab the first one." And so I went in, grabbed the first, didn't even look at the number, grabbed it, and ran out. And it was number 55 again. So that was like the start of it. And then when I then went to play All Stars my second year, so got there was the league All Stars that I got nominated into, and the coaches were saying to everyone, "Look, everyone wants their number," because you imagine all the best players from the best teams had the best numbers. There was 3 55s, there was 6 22s, there was just loads of people who have the same fucking numbers, and the coaches were like, "Look, we've picked numbers that people don't like, and you just get what you're given." And my dad said to me, "Steve, tell him you want your number, or you're not going to play." I was like, "No, fucking don't do that." He said, "Tell him." He said, "Just it's important." He said, "They'll give it you." They because I did quite well without sounding like a prick. I impressed them, and so I went and spoke to the coach, and I was like, "Coach, is it possible for me to have my number?" And he was like, "Look, we told you that no one has their number. So you're not going to be able to use it, even if we know what your number is. You're not going to get your number." And I was like, "Well, I want my number." And I said, and I told him my number. I said, "My number's 55, and I've always worn it, and I don't like the idea of playing without it." And he went, "Okay, yeah." And then when it came out to giving the jerseys, he called my name out first. He went, "There you go," and he gave me my number. So I still got that jersey as well, man. I didn't even wash it. It was like a it was like a, I don't know, like a 3-game tournament or something we played in. And I didn't watch it, but so I've got this massive affiliation with that number, and that's I suppose it is a superstition thing because of the injuries thing, but it's also, I think it also is a tradition thing because I've always worn it and people know me as that number, like they know that I wear 55. So like one of my coaches, it was my birthday a couple of weeks ago, and one of my old coaches messaged me saying happy birthday 55. It's just fucking, just like, it's so important to me. But what about stuff like, have you guys ever had, I think another thing to talk about of this is faith and religion, because I've played in, like I said, I played in the States, and obviously they can be quite religious there, but like with teams like kneeling down and praying after games and stuff, and I've seen it in the UK as well, where like there'll be, and what I've typically seen is there's a handful of players that are religious, and they will go off together and kneel down and pray at like the end zone or whatever. I can see Vic nodding. I don't know if you guys have experienced.
Yeah, they did it at the Wembley game. Some of the pros, some of the NFL guys did it. Quite a few of them come running down to the end zone, kneel down, and I'd say a little prayer. I think it was around the Kaepernick time as well, so some of them were doing it as their little kind of moment to acknowledge that, take a knee before all the cameras got on them. Do you know what I mean? So it was a mixture of the faith and obviously what was going on at the time. But yes, definitely some of the pros still do that. And even after the game, I think some of them will kneel in the center and say a prayer together.
Yeah.
My old O-line coach, God rest his soul, Andy Tyler, he used to have us do like a little 2-minute meditation. Literally, all us O-line, the D-linemen would lie on the floor in a circle, holding hands, looking up at the sky and just breathing. And he was a nutcase. He was the right kind of nutcase. He used to do knife fighting and all this stuff. And the next thing he said, "All right, guys, lie down, breathe." And do you know what it was? It was just like a little moment of being present in that moment before a game, knowing that you've worked your socks off to get there. But just lie down, hold hands, and take breaths together. And for camaraderie, for kind of everyone being on the same wavelength, it was a quick kind of just drawing a line under all the prep, just go and get him, just go crazy. After that, it was like, you go crazy. I just breathe, lay down, hold hands. The first time he said it to us, we all kind of looked at each other. Yeah. He wasn't the guy you said no to. He was not a guy you said no to. So,
Vic, it sounds like you were bullied, mate. This sounds like bullying.
Every crazy thing that he asked us to do always had an effect and it had a reason. So yeah, it was special. And after that, we all did it. We knew it was coming. We used to lay there, absolute silence, and just breathe. And it was sick. It was cool.
No way.
Yeah, man, it works.
There's been loads of comments, but it's mostly guys from Gridiron Hub arguing with each other. But there is someone saying that. So Callum said this: "I always try and wear number 33." Has he got 33 on in his picture? Yeah, it looks like he does. Then someone else did put a number 1 in as well. Where's that? I did see it.
Ryan Cummings has said 13.
Yeah, there, right down the bottom, yeah. So Ryan said number 13. So again, load of people avoid that number, right? Altogether. This is another thing. I remember I started working out with a couple of the older guys, like the previous generation of players, two linemen, guys I really respect, and they used to go to the gym every single day, and they were like, "You got to start lifting weights." All right. So I started doing that with them. This is in the UK, and they would never let me do 13 reps on anything. It was 12 or 14. Don't matter. Don't matter if you're knackered. You do 14. And even on we it wasn't normally free weights and stuff, but if there were machines we were using, you're never allowed to put it into the 13 plate. It may as well have not been there.
Number.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so never finish on an odd number.
No. So I never heard that. It was just it was 13. Avoid it. And I remember going in the car with him, and they didn't I think I had my volume on 13, and he fucking turned it to change it.
See, I do that.
Yeah,
I do that a lot. See, it's got to be an even number.
So I never had a problem. I never registered that number with me before. But even now, I still avoid it. I still like in my car. I'll
My
do it.
step relatives used to put a teddy bear at the table if there was 13 people coming for dinner. They'd actually sit a teddy bear in a stool just to be.
Was
Yeah.
it like
It's
full-size teddy bear or a mini?
Whatever size teddy bear they could get hold of. It was another person. It was there, so it had to be done. Yeah.
So I can remember when I went to school in America, everyone had a locker, and there was never a number 13 locker, and there was never a number 666. They always skipped them. Always. So it went 12, 14, and then if it was a school big enough, it was 665, 667. So yeah, always, because people didn't want them, so they just get the number. But like, I think in general, like having lived in both countries, the UK is not as superstitious and doesn't, and I think that's why it's quite an interesting topic for the UK, because I think that we are more likely, like I said earlier, we're more likely, having been involved with the sport, to been exposed to certain levels of superstitions that don't necessarily exist elsewhere. Like I think, I played rugby before and football, and I think the most superstition someone's got was like, I don't wash my kit, or I wear the same socks or whatever. But like, it wasn't like a huge thing for them,
I think a lot of guys have different things that they rely on. Like some guys like to wind people up. That is their thing. They're not like that off the field. I used to have a guy, and there's a few guys over here, I've seen it. But what they used to do is they used to know the kind of guys they were lining up against. So they would write the other guy's wife's mobile number on their arm.
No.
It's like one guy did that, and he would just sort of every now and again he would just turn his hand out before the snap. And you could see the guy looking, going, "How the fuck do you get my wife's phone number?" Do you know, or girlfriend? He'd write the girlfriend's name on the arm, that kind of idea.
Oh, mate, that's so good.
There was so many other stuff, like even back in the old boys days, there was tons of stuff that used to go on. We had one of the guys who used to go around and sort of basically just shout things or like talk and things like that. And I see your mum and all this guy. It was like all this kind of stuff on the other side. And just constantly winding them up. And then, whistle blows, they're back to normal. It just seemed to be their thing. They like to wind everybody up just to get that other edge, So.
Yeah. Well,
Steve, what's the tradition behind that Farnham drum? Because that really got on my nerves.
So it's not a tradition. And actually, so the guy the Farnham Knights have got a supporters club, and they've had a supporters club for like 30 years.
Okay.
And they're called KISS. So like the Knights Independent Supporter Society or something. So they call them KISS. And they are run by a husband and wife couple, Linda and Andy Soltesiak. Andy was on the stream yesterday, actually, with Coach Rains. Not on, he was in the chat. And they're like, they're out and out Knight supporters. They love the Knights, and it's their like contribution to the game that when we were on defense,
it had that effect, mate. It had that effect when I was lining up to kick the first kickoff. I went to line up for the first kickoff, took my steps, and I hear boom, boom, boom. I look to my left, and this lady's doing it, and I'm just like, "What? Are you serious?"
Yeah. And it's funny though, right? So like, I've been with the Knights through like some very successful periods, like when we played in Europe, and I've been with the Knights when we were in Div 2, and the fans join in with this stuff. Like, so like the more successful we got and the more games that we would win, like when we go on runs, like we had a 10-0, 12-0 season, so 10-0 regular, and then won the two playoff seasons once when I was there. And everyone, like people then start latching on to stuff. And I think that's normal in sport. And this is what I wrote down here, like, is there more superstition at the top level? And I'm not saying the Knights are top level, but what I'm saying is, like, I think success will breed superstition, and like people, like, they don't want to change anything. They want it to stay as it is. Yeah. And so they pick up things.
Value added, isn't it? It's value added to their brand.
Yeah, and like, or they start to adopt things more. So like, and that, so like with the Knights drum, if you played us and we'd just been on a run of like 6 wins, 8 wins or whatever, it wasn't just the drums, man. There was other people there making other noise, like everyone joining in, and it was a racket. But then if you played us, like, we were like losing games in Div 2, it was just the one guy with a drum. And people still heard it. But like Andy's always been the constant that with the drum, or Andy and Linda. It's like the people, the amount of noise that and people that join in with them is always relative to how successful we've been in the season. Because I do think people sort of buy into it and start to sort of like see it as like part of the success. But I remember I joined a team my last year in the US because in my first I played for 3 years, 3 seasons out there. After my first 2, I qualified for All Stars, and then I went on to play state. And once you've played state, you're not allowed. I wasn't allowed back into the league I'd left. I didn't know that, so I had to change team. And I had to go for what they call, so there was 3 tiers of leagues, and there were National, Central, and All American. And I'd only previously played in National, and I had to now play in All American. And so I basically had to switch teams. But I managed to play for a team that were still part of the same club, so still the same kit and the same, but they were a different team. They weren't my team. The new coaches and everything. Now these guys hadn't lost a game. They'd all played together. So I was 14 at the time. These guys had played together since they were 6 or 7 years old, and they hadn't lost a game in something like 4 years, and they'd won a championship every single year. So and this was their first year. They were previously a Central, so a middle tier team, and they'd gone up to the American All American League. So I joined them to go up there. So this was their first year playing better teams, and they lost their first game in something like 6 years or something like that.
And they blamed you.
No, they got rid of all their superstitions that they picked up. So
they started again.
Yeah. So like the coach, all the coaches like, I've got these socks, or I drive this place. I always get a coffee from here. Some of the players I played with, like, I eat this in this order. Like before the game. They had all these superstitions that they'd built up because their success. And then when we lost that game, we lost the Vienna Steelers was the team that beat us. They were unfucking believable. I remember getting hit by a guy so hard my nose started bleeding. It felt like I'd been like an electric shock. Like that's how hard he hit me. But anyway, and all of these superstitions, all of these things that this team had built up, they just got rid of. Like they were out the window because it was like, well, that clearly doesn't help, So that was sort of that's where I come from with that. I think that success does build out, some of these, and that's why I think like when you get like those successful athletes that they've gone from playing amateur to semi-pro or to pro or whatever. I can see why they latch onto that because it's money they're getting, it's their livelihood, and they don't want to lose it. And I can see why, with you guys doing the doing your research, you must have found it must have been quite a lot of professional examples.
Yeah, well, for me, latching on to what you said was Marshall Lynch, obviously with his Skittles, but where that actually started was his mum bringing Skittles to his school games and giving them to him before he played, saying, here you go, these will make you run fast, these will make you run hard. And that's where it started, and it sort of looks like that carried through with him, obviously, to the NFL, as you saw. But it was just interesting seeing where that started and how far it sort of carried with him. Yeah.
Have you ever experienced, Owen, like what's the, I don't know, the most quirkiest superstition you've come across or ritual that you've come across in your team? Like a teammate of yours that you've seen?
There's not really much. Like a lot of people just prefer alone time sort of thing. Yeah. Like they just get their head in the game, and a lot of it numbers and uniform and how they look and stuff like that. But there hasn't been a lot of really weird and strange stuff going on. Like there's been no rituals or anything in the locker rooms.
Yeah, I remember I played for a guy, D lineman, and he used to get all his kit on, get wraps, everything, and then go and stand in the shower with all his fucking kit on. And I was like. And this was like one of the best players I've ever played with. Used to play for the London Monarchs, like a fantastic player. And I was just like, I I'm not going to question the guy. Like, I remember asking people about it, like, why is Tony going in there and having a shower? And they said, oh, it's because he plays D lineman, and if his kit's wet, people can't grab him. So he used to soak himself, and people didn't like it when he leant against him or whatever. But so there was a more practical reason to it, but he would do it without fail. Like he'd always do it. So yeah, but I like my initial interpretation of that was like, there's some weird thing going on here, isn't there? Yeah, he had a practical reason for it. But yeah, like there's and the other thing that I've got, and a couple of you guys have sort of mentioned it or something similar to it, is like I need to feel like my kit's okay. So like so I don't have an order that I put stuff on in. I don't, like Wayne Gretzky. I was reading like he had a certain order that he put all of his hockey stuff on in, and he tucked in the right side and left the left side untucked of his jersey, and all these other little things. And like, so I've never had anything like that. But when I'm putting something on, if it doesn't feel right when it's on, I take it off again and I try it again. And I very, very quickly will get frustrated with it. So if I can remember, it's only happened like once or twice, but like putting the shoulder pads on, and it like was folding up, and it's fine to just quickly get rid of it, but like that was got rid of, but I could still feel it, and it was annoying me. So I took them off and put them on again, and they were fine, but it wasn't right. So I undressed and then waited a few minutes and then got dressed again, and I felt fine and went out and played. But like everyone was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm not going anywhere, but I've got to sort this out." Like, and I couldn't think of anything normal. Like for me, like the way you looked at it, like it looked fine, but it didn't feel right. So I was like, "I'm not," and that. I think that's probably a little bit, I don't know, obsessive compulsive. But for me, the reason I do it, and Vic's touched on this, is like I can't have that in the back of my head. I can't be thinking in the game, oh, that thing's there. I need to be looking at like what's going on and focusing, protecting trying to win the game, protecting myself, making tackles and stuff. And if I've got something else that I'm thinking about, then I'm not going to be able to do that. So that's like my thought process behind it, is like, I need to feel okay, and sometimes that's been that I wear a glove, sometimes I don't, sometimes I wrap my wrist, sometimes I don't. Like I don't have like a set thing, but whatever feels right has to be done. Otherwise, I won't do it. Like I've never gone out where I've said, no, I'm not playing this game, guys, and just sort of. I've always been able to figure it out, but like I've always had this weird thing where like I need to feel completely, I don't know, like at ease with my kit and what I've got on.
I had a massive thing about high top boots, because I played D-line, middle linebacker first, then D-line. And as soon as I got in the trenches, it was like I saw these guys wearing all these high top. I'm thinking, how can you wear those? Like, what if you snap your ankle? Because I came from a soccer background, so I played a lot of normal football. And obviously the boots are much lower, sleeker, whatever. But then obviously now they've gone to collared boots, ironically. But yeah, I said I'll never wear high top boots. You lot are crazy. Tried a pair on, wore them in training. I was like, oh, hello. This is all right. It's actually protecting me more. So then I started putting on wearing high top boots for a while. But then I struggled when it comes to kicking, because they were like bloody astronaut boots. They're so clunky. So I've actually gone to collared football boots, which is kind of a middle ground. But then I could, if I want to fortify my ankles a little bit more, I can either wear ankle protectors, or I don't like strapping on my ankles. That's definitely a no-no.
What, like the spats? You wear spats?
Yeah, similar to that, or I'll put on some like thicker socks and just have that comfort of feeling like my ankles just like locked in, but still a little bit of mobility there. So yeah, from saying that I would never do it, it's actually something that I will definitely advise people to do, especially in the trenches.
My old boy, he had his pads were stolen. Well, not stolen. Well, somebody picked up his pads from another team. I think genuinely by accident. But anyway, they took his pads, and he got new pads, and he just swore that they were never as good as the older ones. And he got really bad injury about 3 games after it. He used to play running back as well, and he got a really bad injury. He broke a rib, different things like that. And that was him. That was the end of it for him. Do you know what I mean? he just gave up, and he still puts it down to the fact that somebody swapped his pads. Do you know what I mean? So, and even you were saying things about equipment and tradition and all that. You kind of think to yourself, some of these guys in the pro leagues are a bit unstable. You know, they've got a lot of money. They're not heavily supported. You know, they're sort of thrown into the limelight. They come from really broken backgrounds. I suppose the big one you would think about possibly that recently is Antonio Brown, right? Now, we all know Antonio Brown has his issues, but he went to a whole other new place when they told him he couldn't wear that helmet. Yeah. And that was the same helmet he had wore that helmet solidly. Like, that's, you know, so like he went to a whole new place when they told him he couldn't wear that helmet. And, you know, you start looking at things like that, like guys like that who are probably that fine line between genius and insanity, you know, something like that is enough to send them down a road.
Antonio Brown as well with the helmet, wasn't it?
Do you know
Antonio Brown said he didn't want to play with anyone.
Yeah, maybe, you know, so it's interesting. You were saying about taping. I broke my scaphoid. Yeah, I played D-line, and you know, I kind of went over, and a guy came over the top of me and broke my scaphoid in the wrist, and it was fine. And I played on and different things like that. But one of the other linemen wrapped my hands for me. He taped them up, and a couple of games after I went away, and then a couple of games after that, I couldn't. Literally after the first quarter, I was like, I just can't play. And they were all like, oh, the guys were sort of saying, "What is wrong with you? Like, what is wrong with you? Is your hands or what?" And I said, "No." And I says to Christian, I says, going to tape my hand the way he did it before. And he taped it, and I was fine for the rest of the game. And then that is one that I carried on for the 3 or 4 games after it. Before we went out, I got him to tape just my right hand. I looked like it was like Michael Jackson, one white hand running around. Do you know what I mean? Kind of thing. It was hilarious, like, do you know what I mean? But it was just, I don't know if it was a comfort thing, or if I just, in my head, I thought I had this wee weakness in my wrist, whatever it was. But after I got it, it was totally fine, you know. So I think linemen are funny that way. Linemen, like, we all had our wee things. Like, every guy, I always thought, it's interesting when you look at players in a whole, like you've got your QB, your running backs, your wide receivers. Linemen are a bit different, I always think. You know, they're a bit of a different breed. And I think every single one of them might have like their own wee superstition or thing. Like, for one of our guys is he always used to like everybody going out and getting a steak, you know, that kind of idea. So you just went. There was no questioning about it. You just, that's okay, we'll head on. A couple of other guys used to watch certain films on the bus on the way there. Waterboy was one of them. They always had to watch.
Someone has said in the chat, any given Sundays, like, I have to watch it the night before. There, right?
Oh, yeah.
Longest Yard.
Longest Yard.
Yeah.
So there's all those. Funny, I was thinking back to a game years ago. One of the ones where Scott Cooper played, just for like a kind of cameo type thing. But he played these Claymore shorts. Do you know what I mean? And everybody, like our team, didn't really have a uniform. Well, they did, but it was old stuff, and everybody kind of made mix and match a wee bit. You know, their helmets were the same, the shirts were the same. And I always sort of said, why are we not buying new gear? And they're like, nah, we'll stick with what we've got. It's fine, we're all cool. It's, you know, that kind of. But I remember him playing, and he came with his Claymore things on. And I knew Scott when he played with the Lions, with the old boy. And I remember saying, what's the story with the you know, the shorts? It's my lucky shorts, man. Do you know what I mean? And that was it. And he played an absolute blinder of a game, don't get me wrong, but he just had, funnily enough, he had these old Lions ones, but he used to use them for training. And then when he got his Claymore ones, that's the ones he used to like playing in, which I thought was quite strange, you know. So he kind of took that one thing, I think, you know. So.
Yeah, well, what you said there reminded me of something. Another thing that I've done that sort of like, I don't know, like it sort of grew, like it just sort of happened. And there's a running back for the Knights, Kingsley Kingsley Ajogu, and he's quite like, I don't know, in the early 2000s, he was one of the best. He's one of the best running backs I ever played with. He's unbelievable. And he when the Knights like dropped down, he went to the Warriors, and he was the running back running behind two Knights, ex-Knight linemen, when they won their first championship. So like, I always attribute it to that. Like that's what kickstarted the dynasty. So Kingsley, when the Knights got back to, I think, Div 1, he came back and joined us. And so he was on offense, I was on defense. We obviously see each other and speak to each other, but like I didn't have, a really strong relationship with him. But after he came back, before every game, I would always go up to him and like shake his hand and say like good luck, and he'd say it back. And I don't know, we did it once, and then we did it every game after that, and we continued to do it. And like it got to the point where like we would be looking for each other, or if he'd see me walk over, he'd start smiling because he knew what it was for. Like it was, and like it'd be with a group of people, and I'd just shake his hand and then walk off. Like, and it was, but like it just became something that we did. But for me, that was actually, I felt that was a respect thing because we were like the old guard. He'd come back. I was so pleased he was there. He was obviously just tremendous. And it was like, I don't know, like I felt compelled to doing that, I didn't think it had an impact on the game, but like it was something that I did every single game with like, I think, and it was like reciprocated. So yeah, I do think you sort of develop these, like these things between players that you sort of like, just like you do a handshake with someone.
Me and my wife, I was going to say, one of my teammates, we had a handshake. We were both sad enough to be Crystal Palace fans at the time. And we made up this kind of handshake where we ended up kind of with both our hands in the air, making like an eagle shape. And it was sad as hell, but we did it. I think we did it once in practice, and we did it once every time before a game. Yeah. And it was also, when I played linebacker at practice, one of our running backs was about 5'7". And I knew practice was going on. I knew I was going to have a good day when he always ran. He didn't really cut. So when he was coming at you, you knew he was going to hit you. So I kind of go to tackle him. The first time I tackled him in the day, he'd always nestle his helmet into my bicep. Bicep was bruised, ripped up every week. But when I took that hit, it was kind of like all right, we're going now. So practice is started. And I knew it would happen. I knew it would hurt, but it would be like, all right, cool. The engine's running now. That was the kickstart. So yeah, man, it's the little things that kind of sow the seed of the routine, sow the seed of the comfort, even in the madness of the game. Do you know what I mean? And when you can kind of feel that they've happened, things are kind of within your control, so to speak. It kind of gives you that confidence to go a bit mad in the sports. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I had a similar thing when I was young. I don't have it now, but I used to like I didn't think it was always happening pre-season, and after it, I'd always think like you, like oh yeah, like I'm getting into it now. And it was when I got hit so hard that my snot came out my nose. And I don't think it happens so much now because probably lids is so much better and you don't so much helmet contact or whatever. We used to play like Bull in the Ring and shit, right? Like but I can remember distinctively like every pre-season I'd get the snot knocked out my face and I'd be like sniff it back up. I'd be like, right, let's fucking do it.
That's it.
It sort of faded away. I can remember that.
Is sort of at the moment in like training and stuff, our punter gets there early, he's just there punting, and for me it's turning up, getting a few warm-up throws in, then him punting it to me and me just pinging it back in the air, and if that hits him, it's going to be a good day. Right.
It's funny though, isn't it? Have you ever had anything like? Have you guys ever noticed anything that your coaches or your fans do or anything like, or supporters?
Not really. No. I suppose if you thought about it, you probably would. Something you probably never really noticed. Do you know what I mean? I suppose there's a few famous sort of ones, like the sort of pick the grass and all, this kind of idea of touch the turf and all that kind of idea.
But see that a lot. You see the
hopping on with your first foot first, left foot first, and right foot. I think the professional footballers do it a lot when they come on as a sub, touch the grass and all that. So
You get it in baseball as well. You'll get players kicking the dirt over the plate before they bat. So they'll kick dirt over. They'll wipe it off, but they'll kick it over. And then some of them used to like. Write, or they probably still do, but like write little messages in the dirt before they went and batted.
I used to stub my toe before I kicked off, but that was kind of like a boot comfort thing, but just a little thing. Yeah, I take my steps and just do a little 3 steps of kicks in the turf.
Is there anything, Quinn? I'll start with you. Is there anything that you fundamentally believed in that was like would classify as a pure superstition, like it, you know, it was such a strong feeling that you couldn't have done without it?
No, I don't think so. I'm just thinking back, funny, laughing. Like there's a couple of guys who used to say things like "Don't do the Rocky" the night before the game, sort of idea. You know, the old Rocky superstition. But there was nothing really. I think that only one would be the taping of the hand more than anything else. But again, it's more of a comfort thing. I'm just thinking back, when you're talking about numbers and the helmet. Like I get given a helmet at the start, and there was only a 0 on it, sort of idea. And I don't know. I went for a tackle and whatever the other part of the tape was on it had moved. The dash had moved, so it looked like -0 on the back of the helmet. Do you know what I mean? And for some reason, I just always remember it came off, and then I thought, I'm going to put that back on again. Do you know what I mean? So it was like I remember one of the guys saying, "Why have you got that in your helmet? You look ridiculous." And I was like, well, I don't know, it's a comfort thing. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of guys like that. They have their own comfort. Whether you thought it was going to, I never ever thought it was going to make a difference in the game. I think realistically, if you do, you're going to get battered. You know, that was it. You know, so. But I remember you talking about getting hit. I mean, I get hit a few times, real big hard hits, like. But I remember sort of coming off the line and getting to the quarterback once, and got him. And the poor guy got him. And he says, "Do you know something? I've got work in the morning." You know that. And whatever it was, it just really, I didn't hit as hard as I used to then. Do you know what I mean? Because it was just, I broke the thing in my hand, and it did register with me, like literally. Actually, yeah, we do. This is amateur. Everybody has got work in the morning, sort of idea. But it's just wee things like that, I think, that stick with you. So there's a positive side to all this kind of stuff, but there's definitely negative. Do you know what I mean?
That's interesting. I think I've never had someone say it to me, but I think if someone said to me, like, "I've got work," or "Don't," I'd be like, fuck off then. Like, I can't imagine, like, I can't imagine I'd have the same reaction as you, as like, actually, yeah, I'll take that on board, you're right. And I'm not saying they're not right, like, of course they're right, you know, but in the moment, in the game, man, I'm so hyped, like, I can't imagine I'd have the presence of mind to think, actually, yeah, I'd just be like, don't talk to me, you're the other position. Like, I'd turn into a bit of an animal on game day. Like, I have to get in a certain mindset, and I don't know that I'd respond the same. Well, I don't think I'd respond the same way. But it's probably the right thing to do, right? Like, yeah, you don't want to ruin someone's livelihood. You don't want to sort of. But then, you know, should he guilt you into that?
I don't think it was guilt. I think it was just more the fact that we did hit him. The two of us hit him. We absolutely creamed him. And it was just sort of like, Jesus, lads, I have work in the morning. Do you know what I mean? And it was just like, it kind of stopped. It's something that snaps you out of that type of thing. I think as well, some guys, you see them, they're almost like acting. Do you know what I mean? It's like they're playing in a third person. They almost like they're, you know, in their head. You've seen what they're going to do before they do it, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Whereas then there's other guys that just seem to be, no matter what happens, they just seem to be able to pull it off. You know, the idea. But yeah, I remember him saying it to me, and I thought, "Geez, poor guy. Like, is the knee okay? Do you know what I mean? Is it limped off? That kind of idea, you know." So there was always something going on in the background. But you know, when I get injured, like, my hand gets stuck in between like 3 linemen. You know, and that was like a 48-stone sandwich. You know, it was not a good place to be in. You know, that's how I did. So, but yeah, no, I don't know if there's it would affect the game as such, but you definitely do start to pick up some weird habits, I think. You know?
Yeah. Ryan said, coaching-wise, I always shake hands with my players, coaches, and parents, and any other to do with our team before kickoff. So, Ryan, you shake everyone's hand. That he's going to have to, obviously he can't speak, but he'll tell us in the comments. Will said this, and helmet decals with a question mark. I don't know if that's if he's replied to someone, but I don't think he has.
Probably,
I think it's on about your story there, Quinn.
Yeah, it was, as I say, it was a number, and I think originally the helmet had 10 on it. I think that's what it was. And the one had broken, and the sort of the vinyl that make the numbers out of, had sort of moved to the side a wee bit. Do you know what I mean? And it was just one of those things you kind of started messing around with on the sideline. Do you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden it sort of just became a bit of a thing. Do you know what I mean? So again, these are things you don't really remember until you start thinking back. You know. So, a lot of guys, like, for instance, I'll give you an example. A lot of guys used to wear, like, the paint on under the eyes and stuff.
Yeah, the eye black. Yeah.
About that, about why do you wear that, or why are you putting it on that way?
I think it's an intimidation thing. I don't think there's any practical reason for it.
There was a practical reason behind it.
It's
actually.
the glare off the sun.
Well, glare.
The glare from the sun.
I remember being told that years ago. I don't buy it.
No, I don't get
We
it.
don't get enough sun here for that, mate.
I remember being told that when I was like 12. And I was like, nah, fuck. I remember tried it. I was like, that doesn't make a difference.
I think they actually tried to prove that. The NFL did a thing where they tried to prove that, like a scientific thing.
Someone must have. They should have. I bet they did it on Mythbusters or something.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So,
we should look it up. But yeah, it's funny. The decal thing, you reminded me of another thing that I've got. Now, I don't feel superstitious about this. It's more sentimental. But my lid from when I was in my last season in the States, I kept it. So I still got it in my loft. And it had, we had our number in like a little circular decal, like a little vinyl decal on the back of our lids. And I took it off of that lid, and I've always kept it on my lid since I played every year. And like, I ended up having to put like, what do they call, like rubber cement on it because the sticky stuff in. But yeah, like I've got that, but I don't. Yeah, I mean, it's not something I like check and see if it's there. I imagine if I check my lid now, it's on it. Like, but like that's more for like sentiment. Like I've still got that thing from when I was a kid on my helmet as a little tiny decal. But yeah, that's you just sort of reminded me of it. But yeah, I think if I found out that it'd like come off in a game, I'd be disappointed. But I'd be like, oh, I shouldn't wear it out on a game. So I keep it.
It's an interesting thing you think about sentimentality, which I suppose if you're superstitious or you have these things, that's the next thing that will lead on to is what do you keep after you've stopped playing?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, I don't know. So, tell us from your own experience.
You see, my dad, right? He has his helmet, but he also has his gloves that he played with. Now he has a set of pads, but they're the wrong pads. He kept it. See the pads I was telling you about? He blames for ending. He still keeps them. Do you know what I mean? And before he played American football, he was he did karate back in the 80s as well. And he has some of his old karate stuff, his old karate mitts and stuff that he's kept. Yeah. And he has kept there. You're talking about 30 years, like he's kept them in this thing.
That's a badass Halloween costume, man.
Yeah. The American football ninja.
Yeah. I didn't like my helmet. I gave it back because I just thought someone else would use it. But I kept obviously I kept my gum shield and I kept just
that's not obvious.
Do you know
that's
what I mean?
Not obvious. You kept your gum shield.
Most people pick that first.
Yeah.
No, I've still got it.
Yeah. See, I'd have slung that.
No, I've still got that. I've got the gum shield. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So,
that's funny.
It's from the same. It's the same one I had since I started playing. Because
I've still got the same one as well.
It just didn't feel
exactly.
Right.
I got about 3. Yeah, I still use the same one.
No way. So I had a break from playing. Like I played rugby, and then I went back to American football. And I kept I obviously kept my lid from when I was a kid, but that's like I don't know. I can't wear that now or anything. But the thing that I have kept is like my jerseys and my trophies. Like that for me represents like the I don't know the season and the effort and all that sort of stuff. But there's not much else like that. But then I haven't stopped playing yet. I still want to keep playing. So, but yeah, it's quite an interesting thing. Like, what do you got this massive old kit bag? What do you do with it all? Like,
yeah,
I know that as I've gone through kit like lids and shoulders and stuff, I've just donated them back to the club so a youth team member can wear it. Like I've never I just see that as me helping the club. Like, so I know some people sell their kit and all that. I've never done that. I'll just give it back. Even shoes and stuff. I just if you want them, you can have them. And but like I know that's not what everyone would do. But that's just, like I say, that's just my sort of, I don't know, like a charitable thing or a benevolent thing that I've got that I like to do. But I remember watching our youth team train, and I recognised which one of them had my lid on, and I was watching him, and he wasn't very good, and I was getting really pissed off about it. I was like, "You need to honour that lid, mate. That lid's been all over." Like,
yeah. I know when the Lions sort of was wrapping up, they actually changed kit. I remember because the old boy, he designed one of their logos, and a lot of the guys came back, even the ones that I think weren't playing at the time, came back to get their old shirts. Do you know what I mean? So like they went back to get the old stuff, and then I think they changed the kit again towards the end, and a lot of the guys then came back and got their old shirts and took them back. Do you know what I mean? So that they had that sort of a memory, that kind of thing. So
yeah, I've got all my jerseys. Like, that first jersey, that player that I said that coach chucked to me, that one. I still got that. I still got it. Like, I've got every jersey I've ever worn at any level. So like, yeah, I'll always make sure if there's the option to buy it or keep it. I'll always make sure I've grabbed it. So yeah, so I could lay them all out, all of my 55 jerseys, and then one number 8 and one number 22. But I still got those as well. I did. You know what? With my number 8, that was the Thrashers one when I got my collar broken. I did consider just getting rid of it out of the collection. Like, is it still a bad omen because I've got it? But no, I've still collected. I've actually got 2 because they're black and white, home and away. So, but yeah, I've kept all my jerseys and like that's, and like I say, all of like any trophies and stuff like that I've picked up over the years. I don't know where they all are. I like the idea of having because I see you see stuff of like different players and people decorate. Decorate. They have all of their old stuff out, like jerseys and frames and all that. I see that quite a lot, especially players that play like GB or whatever. I don't know. I like the idea of doing that, but I'd probably have to just have my trophies out, I think, rather than all my jerseys. My missus would probably get annoyed at getting my jerseys all framed up and put up, but maybe just like a couple of good ones, like really special ones, but I don't know. John White says, does it still fit, Steve? If he's talking about my jerseys, no, John. What, from when I was a kid? John, my jerseys don't fit from when me and you played together, mate. Will said, so I know why Will said this. I asked about the decal thing. He said, does anyone have any special helmet decals? So obviously I've said that one. The reason Will's asked this is because, so on the stream yesterday, I think it was on the stream, it might have been just before it, but we were chatting and he said that, oh yeah, it was just before. So while we were getting ready to go on the stream, me, him and Coach Rains was like chatting and Will went and grabbed his Crew Railroad his helmet and put it on his head, like jokingly. And then he took it off and on the back of it was a Boise State decal. Like the blue horse, blue and orange horse head. And so yeah, and he said, I got permission to have that on my lid. So he's like a huge Boise State fan. And he emailed them and said, I want to have, is it okay if I have my logo, your logo on my lid and a decal of a certain size? And they emailed him back saying, yeah, no problem. And he then shared that with his team and they let him have it on the back of his lid. But I don't know I don't think that's a superstition for Will. I just think it's something that he wanted to have, like he's a fan, I think there's a bit of a difference with that. Unless he thought he was like channeling, Boise State. it looks like we dropped. Oh, Owen said he's dropped off, so we've lost Owen. But I should have said thanks to him. I don't know why he didn't say bye or anything. I thought he had like technical issues.
You put a message in the chat.
Yeah, I just saw it. I didn't see it before, but yeah. So when we were looking at the professional ones, one of these ones that I came across. And I think this is a bit of a different take on it, but I'm a Portsmouth Football Club fan, right? And David James was our goalkeeper for a long time, or for a few years, and he quite famously grew a massive beard at one point, like got huge, stupid huge, and he said the reason I've grown it, he said I'm growing it until we keep a clean sheet. So he's like, every time we can see the goal. I'm not going to shave my beard, and then in the end he shaved it off without the team conceding a goal. And when he was asked about it, he said, "Well, it was because," he said, "I thinking about it and like talking about it with others, I realised that it was a sign of failure." Like, and he said, so it was a negative thing, and I didn't like the negative energy. And I was like, "Fuck!" Like. I would never think of that like that, but I think that sort of shows the lengths that some people go to, particularly in a professional environment. Like he'd set this thing up, like it was probably more jokingly when he did it, like, oh, I'm not, all the time we don't keep a clean sheet, to the defenders, I'm just going to keep growing my beard, and he ends up with this ridiculous one. And then, realizes it's sort of getting him down. He's getting, every time he looks in the mirror, he's got a reminder of his bad performance, So yeah, I don't think I've ever come across anything else like that. Where
Endelman, is it Endelman that starts growing a beard at the start of the season?
Edelman, yeah. Well, yeah, I've seen him with a huge beard, but does it? What relevance is it? Is it just that it's the season I'm going to grow a beard?
I think he starts at the start of the season, and he lets it grow. Because he got it shaved off in the Genesis show there. Do you know what I mean? For like a kind of charity thing. Yeah. And he did say something about that he was going to have to start that again anyway at the beginning of the season. I'm pretty sure he's the one that sort of starts growing the beard, at the start, that kind of idea. I don't know, did Fitzpatrick start it, but his beard's huge now. Do you know what I mean? So I think he's just
he's had a big beard for ages though, hasn't he? I don't think I've seen him clean shaven.
No, definitely Endelman, he started growing the beard, I think, towards one of the ones when one of the last ones that won the Super Bowl or whatever. Do you know what I mean? And then he got it shaved off after, and then the next year he did the same sort of a thing. So. And
then have you guys ever been on, so I've been on clubs, and what's reminding me is John Wise coming up here, because this is something I remember him doing. So every season he would focus something for create something for all the team to focus on. And it was that was something that would constantly remind us of the goal, win or lose, it got us back on track. Don't get too excited about the wins, don't get too down about the loses, because we got to carry on with this plan. And I remember 2 seasons in particular, John pulling that together. But I don't know if he did it for his own. I know he did it for the benefit of the team, but I don't know if he did it because that's something that he feels he has to do. But it absolutely benefited the whole team. It was the backbone of what we were doing. It was very easy to calm us down or keep us not worrying about stuff, because it was this is how we center ourselves. This is what we're here for. We've agreed this. You buy into it. Everyone needs to come back here now. I just think of that as I don't know, and it may sound silly to some people, but that's why I wanted to talk about it. For me, that's great organization and a great way to help us perform well and make sure that we approach every game without getting too big-headed or too worried. It was just play your game, listen to what your coaches are saying, trust everyone around you, and the results should come. You never got caught up in, this team's on, this team's beat that team and they just beat them and they got this guy and he's now injured, and I don't care. We'll just play who's in front of us all of a sudden.
We had it hammered into us when we was in the development stage of getting the team back together. At practice, it was always short memory. Play after play, it's short memory. Like play's done, move on to the next. When you get off the field, that's when you have your little chit chats and whatever. But short memory. When you heard coach saying what's next, everyone needs to shut up, have a look at coach, see what's going on next. And even after games, 24-hour rule, celebrate for 24 hours, commiserate for 24 hours, and then after that, on to the next.
We've had a 20. We've always gone about 24
hours.
Yeah, the structure. I didn't even know other clubs had it.
Yeah. The structure is good to make you realize that once you have that mental control and mental discipline, the physical stuff handles itself. So literally, that short memory stuff, it was imperative that if you had a bad play, you've got about 15, 20 seconds sometimes to get on with the next one. So don't start arguing between yourselves and worrying about what's going on 30 seconds ago. You got 15 seconds to sort yourself out for the next one. So do your drive, get your phaser play out, go to your coach, talk to your coach. No one needs to bite on each other and tell people that this, that, and other. Be constructive. What's next? Short memory. And then at the end of the game, have your inquest, do whatever, 24 hours to get over it, and then get prepared for the next game. So it's really important to have the mental routines that kind of build into the superstitions and then build into the value added of the preparation and feeling comfortable mentally in yourself and obviously physically in what you manifest it in and what you wear and what you choose to do, what you choose to eat. It all kind of feeds into one, really.
Yeah, definitely. John's just popped up, and I'm going to put the comment on the screen. He said this is what it was: 12 steps to recovery, 12-step recovery in 2007. That's the one. That was the first one he did. I remember he did another one as well, which was like 5 or 6 thing, and it was like an acronym. I remember that, and he'll probably bring up that as well. But yeah, it was 12 steps, and that was each game. So we actually went 12-0. So we actually, that was like my undefeated season. It was awesome. And John's. I don't know if you guys know who he is, but man, he's an unbelievable player, unbelievable coach. Great asset. But he put that together. He's all about like the mental side of the game, and like I said it before on stream. Like I had a lot of good conversations with him about that stuff, and I shared with him some stories of like when I had like football camps. I had a football camp with Texas A&M, and I was trained by like their coaches and everything, and with some other like prospects, to the high school prospects, and it was basically like 2 weeks of being in like army boot camp. Like it was just all day, every day, like get you up at 5 a.m. and go for a run in like a white t-shirt like you see on telly. It was like ridiculous stuff, and like they made you do certain things, and then other times they were like, well, you can go and have some leisure time, or you can go in the classroom. And you're like, off, like they play these like little games and you're like just a kid, man. But like I remember talking to John about some of the stuff that we were told there, and he was like, he really interested in it. And but yeah, that 12-step recovery thing, that was like, because our team was sort of, and I think that's why it worked so well. We called it a recovery because we were hurt from being relegated. Like we got relegated the previous season with I think it was a 4-4 record. And then the previous year before that, the Knights had won the championship. Mm-hmm. Like so, like had won Brit Bowl, and then they found them, and it was just like, like everyone was disappointed, and everyone like no one left the squad. Everyone was like, we got to get back in there, and we had more people come in, and so him calling it the 12 steps and recovery, it was like it like made sense to us. And then he's put the difference is still the top 3 inches. Yeah, that's what he used to always say.
That's what she said.
Yeah, that's what he used to always say, man. Yeah. And, I can remember John talking to me about, because I work in learning and development, like so people development and how people learn and stuff. So I know a lot about coaching and from a corporate perspective, right? And I used to talk to him about stuff, and I remember it like I was learning a little bit about neuro-linguistic programming, which is basically like when you might neuro-linguistic is more about you hearing stuff, but you guys may hear it like you may have an experience where you smell something and it brings back a certain memory or a certain feeling from a certain time, right? And it's like your body is associated because you don't often smell that smell or feel that feeling, and so it takes you all the way back to when you experienced it, right? And John said that he used a similar technique to get ready for different parts of the game. And I remember one of them was, he said, when I'm going out on a kickoff, in my mind, I'm playing the Imperial March from. He's a huge Star Wars fan. I'm playing the Imperial March, and he said, but I also do this. And I was like, what do you mean you do that? And he said, well, I just sort of I remind myself, my brain, that like this action is to play that song, and it's now before this thing. And I was like, what? And he's telling me how he trained himself to do it. And he's like, stood in front of a mirror, played the song really loud, and did that, and thought about good things in American football, like when I catch a ball, when I beat someone, when I score. And he said, like, so I basically trained myself so that when I and I may be getting it wrong, but like pinch my finger or whatever, my body goes into, now I need to perform. I thought that was like unreal. And I mean, I'm sure he may come on with a comment here, but I'd love to get him on to talk about that stuff, because I think that's sort of taking it to the next. So that's like a conscious thing, isn't it? Like you're actually preparing yourself mentally for what's to come. And I've never had anything like that. I've just been like, when it's time to play football, I'm going to play. Like I psych myself
that's
up.
Like next level. That's like next level, the muscle memory, isn't it? Because obviously we train to develop muscle memory, to develop instinct, to develop motivation. Obviously, what he's done there is the next level of triggering the internal muscle.
He called it an anchoring technique. And he said, "Jewel of the Fates." I don't know what that is. That might be the song that he's talking about? Twiddling his thumbs. See, I told you there was something like, yeah. But like, I remember him talking to him about it, and like, he probably doesn't even remember talking to me about it. But like, it really stuck with me, and I was like, you can like program yourself. People can. I've never tried it or anything, but I just find it really fascinating that there are athletes and people out there that are able to do
Johnny
that.
Wilco with his kicks, isn't it? Johnny Wilco with his weird position with his hands, and before he kicks, that was totally like non-mechanical. It was just purely a routine thing, isn't it?
Yeah. So John said, mental skills are skills, so they need to be practiced. So, yeah. I think that's a whole different show, but yeah.
I think that sometimes that's what makes the difference between a good coach or a great team member or a good captain. There's people who recognise when people are either struggling or they've got a mental, they get caught up in it. You're talking about the 24 hours, that kind of idea. And I used to, when I started, they put me on O-line, completely useless at it. And I remember saying to them, like, is there any chance I can get a look at a playbook? And they were like, we'll get it to you. But what I used to do was used to stand next, and one of the guys used to tell me, push left, push right, or push, that kind of idea, try to pull this gap. And it was just too much. And I remember playing special teams, and the ball had come out. It was like a semi-fumble. Went to get the ball. I went to get the pigskin, and literally a guy dived on it and scooped it away. And we still got the ball back, right? But, I kind of went down. I thought, fuck, man, that could have been, awesome. I could have lifted that, done a rut, that, and the head, that kind of idea. And one of the guys says to me, if that ever happens again, you should block the first guy and let me pick it up. Yeah. And as I was walking off, the defensive captain guy at the time says, "Don't fucking listen to him. He's a glory hunter. If you ever get a chance to pick a ball up and run with it, you pick the ball up and you run with it. Like you run like fucking Forrest Gump. Do you know what I mean? That kind of idea. That kind of. And then he says to me, "Have you ever thought about playing defense?" And he says, defense is a bit easier. And I was like, not really. And he went, come on over to defense with us. And see, since that was just the tipping point of it, that's when I actually started really enjoying playing, because it was so good. The guys you were playing with, or I was playing with, they could give, with one look, you kind of knew what you were doing. And even the linebackers would run up and you'd feel them touching the back of your leg, or, that kind of idea. And then you just knew what you were doing. There was none of this sort of, are we doing that? And, they would say like 9 times out of 10, we're blitzing.
Never leave it to a linebacker to decide, mate. That one of them's coming in if you let them.
Yeah, that was 9 times out of 10. Lou, just try and get them.
The game. Go on, Karen. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that's what makes the difference with people in sport, or coaches, or good captains, or someone who's play, that they recognise what somebody's going through. They recognise that something that's annoying them, and they can just break them out of it and just say, do you know what? It's not your fault. Yeah, you fumbled it, or yeah, you did. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just the next time, get something on them. Do you know what I mean? That kind of idea, or that kind of, and that is definitely something. That I think that makes a better player. You see that a lot now in the professional sort of a thing. Like you look at Khalil Mack. I'm a massive Bears fan, as you can guess, right? So like for the last 2 weeks, all I've been doing is looking at footage of Khalil Mack getting held, just constantly held every game, either clotheslined, face mask, and he never says anything. He just gets up and he just goes back, lines up, and gets ready to go again. Do you know what I mean? Except for on Sunday, there were two of the Giants tight ends more or less just fucking manhandled him around the park with his face mask. And you can think to yourself, that goes back to that comment I made about we've got work in the morning, and they're grabbing his face mask and pulling his face. And you know yourselves, if he's ever been face masked, and you think to yourself, for all the injuries that happened last weekend, the refs should have been throwing flags at that. They should have been saying, no, that's too dangerous. You're going to break someone's neck here. Do you know what I mean? And the thing is, so there's definitely that aspect in the sport where you have to have people with a level head, or as you say, that they're thinking at that higher level to say, no, you need to stop that. You need to look at, that kind of idea and try and bring the team back,
The game's crazy. It's cerebral. It is a lot in the head. So when I started as a linebacker, I moved to D-line because I couldn't contain my excitement pre-play. So I was middle back. I was calling the plays, kind of guiding the ship. But when we started watching film back, I would always do this little skipping thing. I wouldn't set. I'd skip before the play. Skip. And my coach was like, "Why do you do that? You need to stop doing that? Just set and then go." In the end, I went D-line and just was like, "Yeah, I'm gone." And then I had a situation where I think it was even that game where I didn't have the good night, and I went all the way to Essex in the morning, and I was all over the place. We had a kickoff, and the game was close because I remember I kicked off and it went out of bounds, and I was just like, I didn't even look over to the sideline because I knew the coach was going to be fuming. But I saw rustling, I saw movement, and we had a backup kicker as well. And I think I saw him moving. I was like, "Oh, here we go. He's gonna hook me off." Anyway, I start walking back to go and reset for the kick because I heard them say, "Re-kick." And then someone comes on over, said, "Coach said to say he loves you." And I'm just like, "What?" And it just kind of made me kind of think. I looked over to the coach. He was not even smiling, but he was straight faced. Looked at me. He knew I got the message. He knew he kind of would clearly just take my mind slightly off the game, but then bring me back in, kind of reset. And then I literally boomed it for a touchback from 10 yards back. Just knowing that, hold on a minute, he sent that message in because he just wanted to mess with my head, but clear my head. And in that moment, I thought to myself, damn, like he achieved that from one sentence in a situation where he knew where my head was at to kind of bring me back to knowing that I could do it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, and I wrote a little article about it actually, and I thought to myself, damn, like as an actual coaching technique, sometimes you just need to just go off piece to bring someone back. And that was just wacky and wild, and it worked.
Yeah. Well, I think from a coaching perspective, and I know we've gone a little bit off topic here, but I don't really care. That like for me as a player, I think. Well, first of all, I think coaches in the UK try to emulate coaches in the US or on TV or on sitcoms or on movies, and there's that drill sergeant thing, right? Like that whole like shouting and screaming, and I've played for coaches like that. And it doesn't work with me. Like I will rebel against it. I will always play better for a coach that wants me to go with him and wants to nurture and build me up rather than knock me down. Yeah. You know, if you want to build me up, I'll exaggerate that and I'll be 10 foot tall. If you want to knock me down, I just think, well, why am I doing this for you? You know, I genuinely I can't get past that.
Absolutely.
In my head.
Absolutely. We definitely we had a guy on the team who was a bit of a coach, and he was that way where he would point out everybody's faults, he would bawl and he would shout and he would do all this kind of stuff. And eventually what happened was I think a lot of the guys just ignored him. Yeah, you were quite uncomfortable around them, and you just sort of just went, fuck it, we'll do our own thing. Do you know? This is the Sunday game, we're here for a laugh, we love the game, we want to play. Do you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, there's a reason maybe why you're not in the NFL either. But let's move on. Do you know what I mean? It was like, right, all right, okay, like we're not like the Philadelphia Eagles. Do you know what I mean? Like we are here just playing.
But I do think people come into the sport genuinely think that's what's going to happen. They're so naive to it, and that's fine. But like it's fine being naive, but you also need to be open minded. And I can't tell you the number of times I've been stood there and the coach is telling us to do something and it hasn't quite worked. And then the next thing, they got someone in their ear saying, "Coach, you should try this X333 play on Madden." And you're like, "What? What? Like, what are you talking about? A computer game? This is real life. This is real life amateur football." So I do think that we do, and I don't think there's ever any getting away from that. You'll always have players that join clubs and maybe even coaches that like are looking for a certain experience that just actually doesn't exist. Like it's not the reality of the sport. And I think they either figure it out and they come into understanding it, or they end up leaving the sport because they it's just not what they expected.
That same coach that sent the Sweet Nothings in was a self-confessed dictator. He actually sat in when we did in development. He actually said, "Look, this is my show. We're going to do it my way." And it was like everyone stood back and kind of listened to this and thought, "All right, cool." But he did have the people person aspect when you were one-to-one with him. So that when obviously the troops were together and it was work mode, it was practice mode, he made sure that everyone towed the line his way just for the sake of getting things done properly. And we realized that after the speech, when we first heard the speech, take a knee, listen to me, I'm the boss, it was like, all right. But then after we realized we were doing it for a reason and we're doing it within the confines of practice, away from practice, he was cool. But once it was business time, like he said, "Look, if we do this the right way, my way, we'll get something done. Obviously, if it doesn't work, it's on me." But he did do the dictator thing within the realms of, getting it done properly. So
yeah, I understand. Like, I do understand that. Like,
it is a balance.
What the coach says goes. Yeah, I suppose my point was more about like those that like try and
overcook it.
Down.
Yeah. No, I've seen it.
And like that just never has worked with me. I just never like I can remember. I remember when I was like 11, and I got into a fight with a teammate. Like, and then like they said, "Right, you got to go and run a lap together, holding hands." And I was like, "Cool." So we started jogging off, and I ain't holding your fucking hand. And he tried to hold my hand a couple of times. I was like, "Don't do it again," like telling him not to do it. We got about 30 yards away. Whistle went, and so when the whistle went, everyone stood still, and the coach shouted like, and I standing like he was behind me. I just stayed facing the other way. I didn't even turn around. The guy next to me turned around, and I was like, and he said, "If you guys take one more step without holding hands, the whole team is going to be running laps the rest of training." And I was like, I just took a big, massive comedy leap forward.
No.
Fuck you. Yeah. And that was it. Everyone was running laps. But like I don't react like but actually it's quite funny because at the same time, by the end of that season, I was like the fittest player on the team because I got punished so much. And I ended up being like one of the better players. I went from being like easily the worst player because I didn't know the sport, I was new to the country. I went to training because my mates played. Ended up being one of the better players, but like I was every single training session, I was in trouble. I was doing stuff, but that coach, like he had that disciplinarian side of him, but then he did put his arm around me and he did say, "Look, you're getting good at this game, and we want you to end up." And he made me a captain, and then that was like a massive turning point because I was like, "This guy's backing me. I'm gonna fight for him."
Rebel as much.
He won me over. Do you know what I mean?
That's it.
And then that's sort of where my love for the sport started. But yeah, if he had just been that punish, you're a bad kid, and didn't see any potential in me, I probably would have left the sport.
But then that's because you kind of maintained you stayed the person you were. You didn't back down to him. So sometimes these bullish characters like a bit of pushback in it and will accept sometimes when there is a bit of flippancy there, but the energy's right. Do you know what I mean? So he saw you as someone who stood up to him and took the mick and like questioned his authority, but you were someone that worked. You didn't storm off after you took that step. You knew he was going to run and you carried on running. You didn't storm off and say, oh, coach did this, like you towed the line. Do you know what I mean?
It was funny because I remember as we were running, everyone was trying to like hit me and trip me up. And I was like, fuck, I was just like swinging at everyone.
That's quality. That's quality.
I was like 11 years old. Like, it's like, you know.
If you think of great coaches, do you know what I mean? Your Belichick comes to mind straight away, right? And if you think of Belichick, like, think of all the stuff that he does. Like, you look at the draft, do you know what I mean? Last year, they go to the Belichick camera on the draft, and he's dog sitting looking at the computer. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, no, this is I'm away off to get a beer. I'll leave the dog here. You know, he's always doing something just to mess with everybody else's head.
Yeah.
But one thing I like about Belichick is that he's never afraid to take on a inverted commas troubled player.
Yeah.
And he seems to take these guys who are in other clubs, and whatever he does, he turns them then from this troubled player to a player again, and makes them
a Super Bowl winner.
Yeah, that's
Super Bowl winners. You know what I mean? And you know, that's the thing about it. And I remember watching what's his name, Blindside. Not Blindside.
The
Ravens. What do you call him? The Ravens guy.
Orr, yeah.
Is it? Do you know the one? No, I tell you, the one I'm talking about is
Michael Orr.
Michael Orr, yeah.
No, I'm getting mixed up. Do you know the Ravens guy that passed away, but his son's just started playing for the Ravens? Was it last year?
No.
Big huge guy. There's basically he played with Belichick when he was with the Browns. He was under Belichick, and then he went to the Ravens. Belichick went to the Patriots. That kind of idea. But his son has basically come up through the ranks and has went at the draft and got in. But Belichick owned him to basically say to him, like, it was all one of those NFL short things, like basically your dad would be proud of you, blah 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 blah, this great guy in the league, that kind of idea. And so someone like that who. It's quite amazing how you think everybody thinks, give the bad side to him and the good side to him, but he is an amazing coach of players, and he's an amazing coach of bringing the best out of these players. And a lot of the other coaches over the years, like Hallis and obviously Lombardi and things, were all very, very similar. Do you know what I mean? The players want to play for them. Do you know what I mean? And do their best for them, where some other guys they don't. Do you know what I mean? And that's the big thing.
I think American football is a troubled man sport, to be honest. I think when you're in
that's interesting.
When you're in a sport where you can be violent within the confines
Orlando
to a degree, because you can be technically the rules of bringing someone down, the rules of hitting someone compared to like rugby or something like that. American football,
it's a free for all, man. If you got the ball,
man,
virtually,
you can do whatever you want. You can run through another human being.
I remember when I played in the States, I found out you can kick them. So it's just slide tackle people.
Yeah, it's crazy. So when you've got a player who's going through a lot and whose headspace is somewhat on the edge, if they can channel that into the sport, and you've got a good coach, you can coach them to say, look, if something's going on in your life, put it to one side. You can go out there, practice your heart out, play your heart out, and you never know. It might just give you that break from whatever else is going on to kind of come back and sort your life out. But I know it's definitely been a sort of therapy for me, because at the end of the week, when it's been madness, like going to practice peed off is just the perfect headspace. And I said to you, like, I'll take that hit in the arm, realize I'm still human and I'm not down there Superman, and then just duke it out with the lads, shake hands. Obviously, game day, you're taking it out on people you don't know, so you can go that extra mile as well. And it's like, yeah, man, it's definitely a trouble man sport. It's a nice forum for, again, kids as well, young kids learning the discipline of, being burnt on a route, or someone slower than you outfoxing you because they ran the route better than you. So hold on a minute, I got to check myself. I'm just a normal guy duking it out with someone who's not as good as me, but they managed to beat me. How does that work? And it kind of makes you kind of analyze and look at things on a deeper level in a simple sport, which is essentially throws, catch, and tackle, isn't it? So yeah, it's good, man.
Orlando Brown, Zeus,
Orlando Brown.
And then Callum has said Brown, his dad once got fined for attacking a ref after the ref threw a flag that hit his eye.
Actually blinded him. Yeah, blinded him.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, he ended up. It was like you get partial sight loss on one eye or something like that from it. The ref threw the flag and hit him in the eye, and he literally his whole eye swelled up, and he had to go and get. There's a whole thing about it, and he lost his shit.
I'm googling that now.
Man, unbelievable. Do you know what's quite interesting? You talk about egos and coaches and all the rest of it. You know, did you see the thing with Brady and with Gronk? You know, they asked the questions thing. Did you see it? No. There was a thing on that was basically Brady and Gronk, and they were asking questions, and they had to write their answers down. And one of the questions was, "What is Tom Brady's favorite ring?" Right, which is quite funny. Giselle was mentioned, but anyway, we move on. But funnily enough, his favourite ring is the next one, which I always thought was quite an interesting. But do you know what I didn't realise? Right, you talk about superstitions and different things like that, right? All the players that play with Brady know that answer to that question, because they asked the same thing with Endelman, Amendola, and a few other guys. Do you know what Brady's favourite ring is? And they went, the next one. So that must be his thing. Do you know what I mean? Whereas,
that's a good mantra, man.
You know. So.
Yeah, it's clever. Well, again, I think it's another mentality thing, isn't it? It's quite a clever mindset that they know that he's in tune with them.
Don't dwell on past glories.
We're still going. Yeah.
Still going.
I just want to go back to a couple of comments. So John Weiss said the language a coach uses is the most important tool.
100%.
The most powerful, sorry. I don't know why I said important.
Yeah.
Ryan said, I will never shout at a player as it's a learning process. And no matter how many years someone has been involved, people make mistakes and they still continue. I play a number of years, I still get fucking shouted at, man. I don't mind being shouted at. I genuinely, I'm not like some snowflake at all. But and I expect that when I mess up, that I'm going to be shouted at, and I will always, and every coach will tell you this, I'll always go, I'm sorry, coach. I believe that what the coach says you listen to, and we're all in it together. I really buy into the whole sport thing of it, but the team sport aspect of it, and I don't mind being shouted at if I've done something wrong. What I do mind is if it's if there's an inconsistency to it. So I get shouted at, but someone else doesn't for the same thing. Then I've got a bit of an issue. And I've experienced that as well, and I just lose respect for the coach. It's funny because I don't like performing. I don't like making a coach look good by performing well. But then at the same time, I've now played for teams like the Knights. I was extremely proud to play for them, and I was like, well, I've got to wear this jersey, and I'm also honouring this number, and for some weird reason, like my family, I'm representing more than just this coach. I think as I've got older, I've been able to sort of overcome the whole the thing where I don't really like a coach. I could still probably play for them, but I much prefer to play for a coach that's lifting me up than subjecting me to unfair treatment or whatever. What else is there? Ryan has said, I gave my players a chance to call at least 2 plays. They can call in games before helping the. Sorry, he's terrible with his. With his punctuation. He's basically saying he gives players a chance to call.
That's what he's trying to say.
Encouraging them to research and learn their stuff, innit?
Yeah, I get that. I think you're very lucky if an offensive coordinator allows you to do that. I think it must be only certain. I'm sure he doesn't go around and let every player call 2 plays.
Either that he's a defensive coordinator, and it's just
who needs a game plan? Who needs a game plan? Game plan roulette.
Yeah, you
what we're doing. But
I've played for so long and I know the game quite well. I typically get trusted as a middle linebacker to change the play or call it, or, so a play will come in, and I've got to the stage where I'll be able to say to the coach, like, no, we're not doing that. Fuck that. Like, you haven't seen what I've seen, and they're cool with it, But I need to, when I go off, explain it to them, justify it to them, and if that play didn't work, then I expect to be fucking, ripped apart.
Accountability.
Yeah, that's it. So if you are going to let someone call plays, they've got to understand that they're like, they're stepping up and now they're next on the line and they've got to deal with it. It can't just be.
It's
I don't think it can be
perspective,
like,
you have to appreciate.
It doesn't matter we got sacked, or it doesn't matter that we gave up a touchdown. Like, you tried your best. Like, I think there has to be that account, because that's the whole point of a coordinator, right? Like, they're the ones that are accountable.
So a lot of the time,
but do you not think though it can go a bit the other way though, where you have like obviously a personality clash, players and coaches, and you think to yourself, and obviously it would be the classic example would be the Bulls team, Jordan, Pippen, they're sort of the Last Dance, as we've all probably watched it on Netflix.
Yeah,
the fact that, do you know what I mean? Like, so you have the general manager who does not go on with the head coach, and you have the players who go on with the head coach, but you have some players that don't go on with the general manager and the owner or the head coach, and it's a vicious circle. But at the end of the day, they still won a championship. And you kind of think back to things like that. I think back to Walter Payton. Do you know what I mean? When Walter Payton started playing for the Bears, he basically took that team. He was the team. That was it. He was the guy. What he did in that sort of a first season, do you know what I mean, when he played, was phenomenal. And there wasn't a quarterback. They didn't really have a line. The coaching was poor. That kind of, and then obviously Dietrich and McMahon and all these guys sort of come on, came along sort of, and then they win the Super Bowl. And everybody sort of says, that Peyton and they didn't get on. Do you know what I mean? And the fact that Peyton never scored in the Super Bowl was because of that. Do you know what I mean? So you can sort of see where if you have a player who is like, I suppose modern day would be Aaron Rodgers. He would be the classic example of, do you know what I mean, where the player is now starting to run the football team, or he was the last 2 years, and now he's having to take a step back. And you can already see that transition happening with Jordan Love and stuff coming in, with the way they did it with Favre, with him coming in. So you've got players there who are exceptional. And this is what I'm quite interested to see what's happening with Brady and the Bucs this year round. I mean, essentially Brady is an offensive coordinator on.
Going to be, yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but it's interesting how some coaches can handle that, some coaches can't, but they almost end up victimizing that player, their superstar, and then on turn it has an effect on the team. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So some of the coaches out there, some of the great coaches are the ones that recognize where their strengths and their superstars are, and just say, yeah, that's okay, don't worry about it. Okay, he changed the play, or he called something different, or because you kind of have faith that he saw something on the field that I didn't see. Do you know what I mean? There is that balance, I think, with coaching.
Yeah, well, I would also I always got used to get told off for like what the coach would call freelancing. So I'd call the play, that's the play, and then I'll be like, I'll do what I want to do. I want to make the play. And I remember there was this one play. This was like we were playing the Birmingham Bulls, and I was lining up as the end in this game. And I remember I don't know why, it was like for a series. I can't remember what it was, but they put me down at the end, and like the first play I ran past the O lineman. Second play I just got locked up behind and I was useless. I was like, I'm not doing anything, it annoyed me. And I thought, right, he's not doing that again, So the third play, this is their third down. I went to go around him. He read me. He went to lock me up, and I was like, no, fuck off. And I smashed his arms, and I ran backwards. So I backpedaled into the secondary, and I got an interception. and I could hear the coach from the sideline as soon as he saw me go back, and what are you doing? Starting to shout at me. But then I got the pick, and then obviously like run off the field. He's like half pissed off at me because I didn't do what I was supposed to do. But actually, I got a pick, and we ended the drive. So I think that's the sort of stuff I usually have to deal with. Like rather than actually, I have changed plays, but that's normally a bit like there's usually like an agreement with it, and it's logical. But I do illogical stuff on the field, and but
You
like
need that.
normally
You
it
do
works.
need
But
it.
then the worst case is when it doesn't work,
and you get chewed out.
and then you've got to go off the field and speak to the coach.
See what I found
what do you think about overcoaching?
Yeah,
Over
so
micromanaging the players.
Britball was crazy because when we were coming up as these young athletic guys, like we were creaming teams every single week. We were more athletic, we were better coached, and the only thing that was lacking was the attitude to put teams away. Like we won games easily, but we weren't focused. So the coach needed to kind of corral the guys and keep everyone focused on it. So when anyone missed a tackle, for instance, on defense, they got chewed out. And it's like, oh, your techniques, get low, da 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 da. But me as a 6'1" guy, if I was coming up against a running back who's like 5'5", 5'4", I know I'm not tackling him easily around his legs. I'm in the heat of the moment. I'm not going to probably get down all the way down low. We went up to East Kilbride to play. I think the guy's name, Ian Diggs, I think his name was.
Is that the guy with the black hair, long black hair?
He was short, 5'5", stocky, wham. I don't know if he still plays. He was quality, and he had a reputation for tracking people. So I think it was on kickoff, actually. I kicked off, and I could see he was weaving his way. He was coming. I was safety guy, last guy. And I thought to myself, nah, something kicked into me saying, I just got to take this guy down and not get laid out. So literally, I come run up to him, broke down. And instead of trying to get low, I just kind of hunkered down over him, absorbed his kind of hit, and he kind of rocked back and just ended up sat on his bum. And I'm thinking to myself, good, at least that weren't me. After the game, he come over to me, he was like, and I looked at him, he looked at me, and he was like, I thought I was gonna chuck you. I said, I knew you were gonna try and chuck me, bro. It's not gonna happen, bro. And I knew in that, if I had listened to what my coach would have told me to do in that moment, I would have got creamed. I would have tried to go low, tried to tackle him. I got hit in the side of my neck and ear socket pad, and I would have probably got injured. So, as a player, you got to have a certain accountability towards yourself in this violent game, and to have that instinct and gut instinct to know, hold on a minute, I know what probably coach wants me to do in this situation, but I'm gonna do what I feel is right. So you do sometimes go off script. Yes, you get through that if the worst comes to the worst, but safety first. Obviously, your personal ego a little bit second. You got to chance it every now and again and see if you really read it as you read it. You got to trust your instincts. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, I don't mind a coach doing that if I've done something wrong, because it kind of and the shouting thing as well. If I hear a coach shouting at me, it will register that adrenaline rush, thinking, I hate getting things wrong. From young, I've always hated getting things wrong. So being shouted at, having someone kind of getting dragged off, what did you do wrong? Look at the coach. Da did this. All right, cool. Took a play out, go back in, sort it out, and after that, ready to go. So yeah, there's a balance. There's a balance.
We had a similar one where, me and one of the other linemen were just in defense, were just getting absolutely hammered. This guy who must have been about 6'8". Fucking, he was huge, man. He was just picking us up and throwing us around like a fucking cartoon character. And I said, at the end of it, I said, I had enough of this. And Cookie just says to me, hold him up. I was like, hold him up. I said, all right. So I hold him up, and Cookie came in from the knees. Do you know what I mean? That kind of went down, and there was a big scuffle after it, and there was all this kind of. And we got off, and we just knew, you see the coach doing this.
Yeah.
And he said, and we got off, and he's like, no, don't do that again. Like, okay then. two sad boys at the bottom of the end, at the bottom of the line, with the big lips out, that kind of. But it was just literally you'd lost your temper, and it was obvious. And, we were getting beat, and it was just I'm fucking had enough. I was black and blue from top to toe. Do you know what I mean? It was just ridiculous. But the overcoaching thing, going back to the now to the Bears, I think that's what's wrong. I think they're overcoaching. They're trying to keep their quarterback into a system that they sort of that they should let them play a bit more. And again, it goes back to this sort of attitude. I think these days, and it's definitely in the NFL and probably through, but everybody wants to be an overnight success. Do you know what I mean? Like years ago, I don't know how you feel about it, but years ago, like if you looked at Rodgers and Favre and Montana and all these other guys, they'd done their time. You know, they were not second-year rookie leading a team. You know, hey, you're going to win a Super Bowl in year 3. That was really rare. You had to be exceptional. Do you know what I mean? So nowadays, everybody wants that overnight success. You know, everybody wants that. Where and you know, you probably know from your own careers, like you weren't given the star role straight off the bat. You had to earn them. You know what I mean? So nowadays, it's like, no, you're getting paid. You get 5 years, and if you don't win a Super Bowl, there's the door. You know, and I think that's you know, coaching now, the straight, you can see it in the big games and you know, any sort of a level where a lot of people are just looking for that overnight. I want to be a success. I want to win it. I want to win everything, and then that's me. I'm done. You know, that kind of idea. So
yeah. I think that goes all the way through, even into Britball. And that's where we've got the problem. Like, so essentially, what happens in Britball? Players learn the sport, and then they go and find a team that's going to win the next championship. Yeah. And once they've done that, they're most likely going to drop out. Yeah. Like I see that over and over and over. There's not many people that will want to stay with their local team or a team that they pick and build it up and you know, because it's like instant gratification. Like it's all, and I think they almost look at it like a transaction. Like, I'm paying this much money. I want something back from that, other than just being in the sport. They want accolades. They want, you know, prestige or whatever. I think that's all the way through. I think that's like society now. That's what people are like.
Quick fix culture, man. That's what it
like
is.
Instant gratification thing. I think that's what people are after. John has said, in our sport, in my opinion, we have a huge coaching issue with empowering players with decision making, or more specifically, not. What? So does he mean there like that we're not giving enough decision making to our players?
I think what he's sort of what he's maybe trying to say is it's a difficulty of finding the balance.
Yes.
Where you trust. You know, if I was lining up next to Vic, I'd be sitting there thinking to myself, Vic's played this a lot longer than I have. So if he tells me to push left, I'm pushing left. Do you know what I mean? He's probably saw something that I haven't. Do you know what I mean? And I think, I think what he's trying to say is, as a coach, you should know when to say it and know when to back off and just let the guys out on the field. But I think that's another thing. Coaches may have played. Some of them, I think, crucially, have never played. Do you know what I mean? And that's they've come along. They want to get involved in the sport. They maybe have tried it out. They can't, or some coaches never play the game. And I think you have to remember as well that, it's not you out on the field there taking the hits. And if the guys make a wrong decision, or they decide to change something because they thought they saw something, or they're getting burned, every time, that kind of idea, or, then that is a delicate balance, that they find,
Yeah,
the players are an extension of the coach. So if you empower your players, you're empowering your coaching ability. You know what I mean? It's a difficult balance. It is difficult.
Yeah. It's funny because I feel that I think 5 years ago, I wanted that. Like I'm the defensive captain. I will tell you what we're doing, like what's happening on the field. I expect you to factor that in. I want you to call plays that are going to win the game. Stop this offense, but I need you to understand. Like I've always known a captain to be like an elevate more than any other sport. A captain in American football is like an elevated position, right? You've got that strategic element to it as well, right? But like now when I'm going back and playing, I think maybe it's a sign of like I'm a little bit older and I'm happy for someone else to be the captain and to do that stuff. Just tell me what you want me to do on the play, and I'll do exactly what you say. I'll probably freelance at times, but I sort of, it's weird. Like I've gone to a place where I'm actually happy now. Someone out, like I can just focus on one thing and I'll let someone else worry about everyone else. You don't need to worry about me, like, but you can tell me what I'll do and I'll do it. But like, you know, like I'm actually quite looking forward to going back and playing, and like someone else can take that responsibility from me. But then the question is, what if they start fucking up with it? You know, like, and I don't agree with them. And
You're gonna have to draw the line somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Like, do I take over? Do I help them out? Like, you know, like I don't know. We'll see what the future holds. But I'm quite looking forward to like just focusing on me and my position and my game, and you know, the guys that are in front of me, getting the better of them, and then hopefully getting to the ball. Like, yeah, like I've got a much different mindset going back into it. And yeah, you know, like it must be hard from a coach's perspective to try and manage all these different, probably competing in some instances, approaches to that game. They've got to make sure that those 11 guys on that field are going to do the thing that they want them to do, or the thing that's been agreed upon doing, you know, like, so yeah, I can see how it you know, coaches do get frustrated and do shout and do, you know, like, it is a tough job for them. But at the same time, all I want really is that consistency, you know, like so you get just as annoyed at someone doing something as you would me or whatever. Like, it's you know, it's not like there's this preferential treatment. But
yeah, when I got moved from middle backer to D line, it was like not a kick in the teeth, but it was explained to me why the whole moving around for the play and middle backer. They're like, my coach was like, you know what, try it on the line, just feel what it was like to be able to go straight downhill, get it done. You've got attribute to be a great player, but you know, from what I see from you, like, middle backer might not be the thing for you. I had the knowledge for it. I was calling the plays, I knew everything, knew the playbook, but again, that ability to be able to say, look, get in there, you can lead from the front rather than have to be the man in the middle to lead. You don't need to be the man in the middle to lead. Then I went from the end, then I went to nose tackle. So literally I was right there in the front. And I had a feeling, I got to the stage where I was like, do you know what? I'm going to do what I'm doing here. I know the guys behind me are cool. Like, newer guys came in, other guys came in, younger guys came in, and they might not have been as knowledgeable as me, but I had confidence in them to kind of follow my lead from the front. And then when I moved from D-line to O-line, I heard a few people saying, you're O-line man now, you're going O-line. Yeah, as if it was like a downgrade or a demotion. And I thought to myself, I've been playing for how many years? I can actually go out there and pick someone to pick on. Like, of course I'm going to take that. Like, of course I'm going to do that every single time. And like, even certain coaches would say it to me, you're playing O-line, aren't you? But even when I first went down to training for the first ever time, the coach there, he tried to put me on O-line. And I was getting down in the stance. I was thinking, what the hell is this? Like, my body was not in tune with it at all. But where we was in development, we all did like running drills right, at the end of practice. These times I'm 15 stone, playing football, so I was quite mobile. We saw me running over the bag. Is like, nah, sorry, you're down on defense. You're playing defense. So essentially, I got that instant promotion with athletic ability. Then the intellectual side kicked in. I was made a captain, and then I made the choice to kind of downgrade myself in terms of responsibility in certain positions, purely based on what I felt my attributes were, and accepting the fact that people may look at you and think, oh, you changed position because of. I knew myself. I knew that the ego side wasn't a big deal. I was defensive MVP first season, made captain. Like, I'd done the whole recognition thing, but in terms of the sport, I'm a team player. Out and out team player. Always been a team player. Luckily, American football, I've always been a starter, and I've always played the position that I've wanted to play or move to, whatever. I've always been a starter. But I was happy to be within, like, exhaustive versatility of the sport. That's why I really love the sport, and I always promote it to anyone. Like, there's guys 10 stone lighter than me that can line up and play the sport just as effectively as me. What other sport can you play that? Nah, it's awesome. So yeah, like, I went from linebacker, D end, nose tackle, O-line, all the while still being a top end kicker. And it's like, how many guys can be that versatile? Do you know what I mean? I'll hold my hands up and I will toot my own horn. But yeah, it's one of them ones where I've managed to find my space within the sport and get a job done. Do you know what I mean? And you can always do that. It should be a life mantra, really, in this day and age as well. Like, the amount of information and stuff we have, resources we have available to us, like we can do a lot. Like there's a lot out there, and if you have people around you to coach you, just like American football, if you have the resources around you to teach you the different techniques, what is really stopping you from kind of getting it done and getting off? Then that's the coaches, players, staff, whatever. Like there is so much out there. So I think Britball needs to kind of take a look at itself, maybe from the top, and kind of just start to implement that kind of mutual learning, understanding. It's there. The progress should be made, man.
Do you know what's interesting? You're talking about players that start with Brit Ball teams, and then they move to other clubs because they want that kind of success and different things. Like over here in Ireland, right? They have the big sport over here is Gaelic football, right? So it's that is the sport over here, right? But
they're hard guys, man. They're hard nuts, mate.
Plays for their county. So there's none of this sort of a thing where like Dublin's the big team because they have a lot of backing. They have and although it's an amateur sport, the guys aren't paid, but they are, heavily you training facilities, and you can work for the company that's sponsoring and all this kind of idea. But a lot of these guys they're playing at a professional level at an amateur. And they're playing at a professional level, but they're not getting paid. They're playing an amateur sport, right? It's a massive sport. But there is that loyalty. There is that thing like I'm playing for my county. Do you know what I mean? There is none of this. And if you go down, take a step back down again, everybody then plays for their individual teams in their local area. There'd be none of this. Well, actually, I think I'll jump to this team because they are better. Do you know what I mean? I don't care.
It's pride, isn't it?
12 years in a row, we are still going to play for our county, and that's it. Do you know what I mean? But it's actually not just as simple as that, because it's regulated. So that if you sign up for a team with your postcode or your area, then that's the team you play for.
No way.
Baffa, take notes, mate. Baffa, take notes.
Do you know what I mean? So it's definitely, and that structure then allows coaching and sponsorship,
development, and that,
local things, because people get behind them do well. So that is one thing where that sort of a structure and that sort of a regulation should come into play, because it will build the sport up rather than shut it down. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's one way to look at it.
If they were to do that in London, mate, it would be mental. It would actually be mental.
Yeah, splitting up the London postcode?
Yeah, the postcode. I'm in Kent, so I'll be stuck with the Exiles. But
you Exiles boy, yeah.
I'd have to be, that's the closest team to me. But that'd be mad if they did that in London. But then you'd have the local area, as you say, behind it. The local gangs, so to speak, would become gangs within the sport. There'll be an incentive to turn up and say, "Oh, what we're playing?" Them like, "All right, cool." It would just naturally breed a certain level of pride in your teams. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, that'd be awesome.
Ryan said he's been with the same club 10 years. Sean has said, I think there are a lot of players that want to stay and build clubs, but some coaches have an ego issue. Force those players into leaving, and now the team is missing those key players to build a club for the future. A lot of players
sounds like he's talking from experience.
Yeah, it sounds like it, doesn't it?
That's therefore a dog there, like
big.
You can have different politics that drive, that drive certain things. I can remember when I went from the Knights to the Thrashers. There were the Southern Sun Devils folded that year, so there was a huge influx of Southern Sun Devils to the Thrashers, and that's what they looked like. They went to the playoffs for the first time and that sort of stuff. And I can remember there was a huge rivalry between the Southern Sun Devils and the Farnham Knights, or the PA Knights as we were called then. And I can remember talking to some of the lads, and they were like, "How can you play for Steve Rains?" And I was like, "What do you mean? How can I play for him? Like, he's quality." And he's like, "Nah." And they didn't like him. Now, a couple of those players are still at the Thrashers and now play for Steve Rains, and they love him. And some of this stuff is political, but for the wrong reasons. I don't know what the reason was that these players were saying, like, how can you play for this guy? Maybe they heard stuff or whatever, and
it's counterproductive, isn't it? It's just ridiculous, man.
Yeah, but I think you do. There is a lot of political stuff in Britball. I remember speaking to someone about that. If they did talk about the postcode thing once, I don't know if it was ever in place, but they said, well, if they do that, you'd get people that just set up fake addresses.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, so people will find a way of gaming the system, right?
100%. Use my
Anyway, right, guys,
No.
we've been going on for ages.
I know.
Sorry, Quinn, did you have something to say then?
I was just going to say, it's interesting because we're talking about team loyalty and playing and coaching and different things. They don't seem to have that in America. They don't seem to have that in the NFL.
No.
Because you have players like, I played for the Bears last year, I'll play for the Packers this year, and next year I'll play for Lions. It's just like whoever's got me the check.
He's got the contract,
Yeah, I would argue that the same probably exists to a larger extent in the English Premier League now.
Definitely.
It's not Arsenal, Man U like it was 15, 20 years ago. Do you remember when Sol Campbell went from Spurs to Arsenal?
Yeah.
Like people wanted to kill him. It was unheard of.
Morris Johnson went from Celtic to Rangers. That was unheard of.
So I'm a Portsmouth fan. If we had players going to Southampton, we had Harry Redknapp, man, went to fucking Southampton, man. That was like the worst thing ever, man. Like, and then he came back to us afterwards.
Always forgiven. All is forgiven. You come back.
Yeah. You relegated them. Yeah, that was awesome. But everyone calling him Agent Harry.
That's quality.
But I think you will have some politics playing into it. But I agree. I think there should be some sort of like, or even we do see a lot of people say, once you sign for a club, you can't transfer away during the season. Like, you're there, like, because there's the inevitable. Oh, my team's gone 4-0, 5-0, and I can still jump.
Chance my arm with someone else. Yeah, you shouldn't be able to play with someone in the same league. Like that's fair at least. Like, that's just mad. You have to go somewhere else, but I don't know.
Yeah,
you should be cup tied. You should be league tied.
Anyway, maybe we'll talk about this stuff another time.
Definitely.
Guys, thanks so much. Like I can't believe we've been going for so long. I thought we'd be like an hour at the most. But yeah, really enjoyed tonight, and thanks for everyone for sticking with us and watching. And
absolutely.
So you guys we'll let you know what we're doing next, and if you've got any ideas for shows that you want to do, just get stuck in, because so the way that we want to run this Gridiron Hub Live is that we've got a number of hosts who can jump in at any time and do. I don't want to be like this ever-present entity with these things. I've got a son that wants to hold my hand as he goes to sleep, so I can't do it all the time.
Absolutely.
Cool. Anyway, Will said long, try midnight. Yeah, we did. I don't know if you guys know, we did a show that went like double this, so 5 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. We finished at midnight.
Go for a Super Bowl special where we'll start and we'll just talk all the way right through it. Commentate on it. But anyway, but no, guys, really good chatting to you. Good talking to you, man.
Nice one, man. Appreciate the platform, man. Good stuff.
Yeah, no, it's good, and thanks to Owen as well, who was here for the first hour. And we'll no doubt, we'll be back on and doing other stuff soon. Probably the ref thing. You guys seem to enjoy the ref.
Definitely.
There'll be. I'll stay out of that one because I'll be shit at it anyway. I'll be like, well, fuck him. Ref shouldn't even be on the field. But anyway, I'll leave you guys to it. And thanks very much. We'll be back next week, guys. Cheers.
Catch you later.
Take it easy.
See you later.